Part 346. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3465. Tagigong Wogui met everyone's curious eyes and said indifferently, "Old Tutu, I have contacted more than 10 competitors. I am clear about this matter. Please follow me out. This teleportation array can withstand it. It doesn't hold too much of your breath, and maybe it won't be useful after a few thousand times." Thousands of times. Hearing this, everyone twitched their lips. They used it once to teleport so many masters, and the follow-up personnel on that continent would probably only use it dozens of times. Based on this calculation, thousands of times would be enough for nearly 100 competitor events, that is, several for hundreds or even tens of millions of years. This landlord has been really saving. He didn't really think he could live that long. However, no one raised this point and just followed the seemingly experienced old turtle out of the cave. As he walked, the old turtle talked with everyone. He spoke concisely and concisely. When he walked out of the cave, Jia Yan, like everyone else, already knew many general details about the central continent and how to deal with competitors. This Tiangong is truly a powerful force that controls many continents. In fact, there is more than one Tiangong in the central continent, but Tiangong is definitely the most powerful of all the major forces. This is also reflected in the matter of competitors. Several other major powers have turned a blind eye to competitors whose strength is almost limitless. They hold the idea that doing more is worse than doing less. They do not want to contact or disturb them at all. It can be said that they turn a blind eye. But Tiangong is different. He has the background to contact these competitors, and he also dares to try to control the competitors to prevent the central continent and even the wider world region from encountering catastrophe. Judging from his words, this old turtle is also very cautious. It can be seen that not only is Tiangong's background strong, but the people standing behind their competitors are even more behemoths. Jia Yan thought of the mighty ones who had guided them. No one knows whether there are so many powerful ones in one dynasty island area, or whether they control several places at the same time. But one thing Jia Yan can guarantee is that it is impossible for all the competitors to be managed by those adults. This means that there are more powerful ones than he imagined. Tiangong didn't dare to provoke him directly. That's it. In this great world, whether you are friends or enemies of my heavenly palace depends on how your friends will act next. I don't want to be enemies of you, so please show your respect to the people of my central continent. Easy to say. It's not easy for competitors to hit the smiling guy. Moreover, this old turtle seems to be a low-level character, but the energy fluctuations in his body are also extraordinary. It must have been extremely powerful during his long life. How should we act? Should we separate, or should we become one? When the old turtle sent people outside the valley and returned to the ruins, Jia Yan and others looked at each other. These competitors came together from another continent, and their relationships are more basic than Lu Yu. Many of them came to the other world from the outside world and stayed on that continent. Many stories happened. Jia Yan hugged his feet without thinking. "Sorry, dear friends, I have made an appointment, so I'll say goodbye." "Your Excellency," Jia Yan, has made an appointment? This central continent is extremely vast, and it's not easy to find a friend. Why don't we wait and get together? There is a way. No need, I just happened to be searching for how to complete the mission in the central continent. I guess we haven't reached the end of the second level yet. Well, everyone has his own ambitions. Take care, Mr. Jia Yan. Take care of yourself. Jia Yan tore apart the subspace and stepped into it. Soon the chaos in the entire space stabilized. The competitors behind him stared at each other for a moment, then shook their heads. "I told you, how could this Jia Yan be so easily deceived by us? The idea of using him as cannon fodder is impossible to succeed. So what if it doesn't succeed? At best, it's just him leaving, which is no different from now. Forget it, everyone is gone. It's hard for us to leave a subspace master. Let's go. Our alliance just works together to look for opportunities in the outside world. All the masters also got up and flew out of the valley. Only after they left, a pair of turtle eyes locked on this group of outsiders. After a long time, they sighed and returned. Central Continent. It is the most prosperous and dangerous place in the world. Jia Yan was flying among the mountains and forests of the Central Continent. Each of these trees is more than 10,000 kilometers long, and some are even more than 20,000 kilometers long. This is too high. The trees in the mountain forest opened Jia Yan's eyes. Trees that cannot be named are growing to the sky. Jia Yan saw a few trees in a mountain forest from a distance that almost reached the sky, more than 100,000 kilometers away. And this is just a mountain forest, not a place famous for giant trees. It's too exaggerated. This central continent should be the most elite place in the entire world. Jia Yan sighed. The speed of shuttle in subspace is not as fast as the teleportation array, but it is definitely not bad. He moved sideways in the subspace for a moment, and had already rushed out of the forest where the ruins were located. But not long after, his eyes trembled. In the distance in the subspace ahead, there is a mountain-like barrier. What? Formation. He was shocked. After coming to the other world for so long, this was the first time he saw the formations arranged in the other world. You must know that although people in the other world have some understanding of the power of cultivation and formations, they are almost blank about the subspace. But now, he actually saw the power of the formation far beyond his imagination. Covering a large area of subspace. No end in sight. Is it the ancient formation? It is very similar to the teleportation formation. Jia Yan understood immediately. This is the area blocked by the same person in the ancient teleportation formation, or in other words, the existence of the same era. Aren't you allowed to use subspace to move? That would be troublesome. Jia Yan tried to avoid this large formation. The gray formation continued to stretch, and after flying for a while, he stopped with an ugly look on his face. It turns out that the formation is not very large, but it surrounds the entire mountain forest centered on the valley. No wonder, this is the location of the teleportation array, and it is normal to have such a large defense array. Jia Yan found a place on the edge of the formation, tore apart the subspace, and walked out of it. At the edge of the mountain forest, he walked out of the subspace, and further stepped out of the formation's control range. As expected, the outside world is not affected by the formation. After taking a few steps out, he didn't care to appreciate the beautiful scenery of this world, and got into the subspace again. Sure enough, it is beyond the range of the formation control, but... Jia Yan moved forward again. Not long after, his figure returned to the normal space from the depths of the subspace, and the torn subspace light revealed a long cracked shadow behind him. But his expression was not very pretty. We have reached a new canyon in front of us, and the scenery is infinitely beautiful. But Jia Yan felt a little uncomfortable. Another formation obstacle appeared in the subspace. He had already had a hunch that this space might not be so easy to use in the central continent. Try again. He didn't care about so many changes in the central continent, and just gritted his teeth and entered the subspace again. After several attempts and traveling through several areas, Jia Yan's figure has arrived in an unfamiliar area. It has also flown across endless distances, much faster than ordinary masters acting alone. But it's not much faster than those competitors traveling independently. He had already walked out of the subspace with an ugly expression, and then looked at the shadows of intelligent creatures moving in a mountain stream not far away. With a long sigh, Jia Yan has come to a conclusion. The subspace of this central continent is actually a honeycomb structure, all blocked and divided by formations. He shook his head bitterly. As a result, his subspace escape or combat ability will be greatly affected. Of course, the mobility at close range is not much worse, but the ability to leave calmly afterwards and to escape when encountering a powerful enemy is almost useless. Every time you reach the edge of a formation, you have to fly out and shuttle once, and then enter the subspace. Repeatedly, the speed is greatly slowed down. This central continent is aimed at me. Jia Yan quickly calmed down his emotions. In fact, it is normal. Since the central continent is the endpoint of the entire journey, it is destined to be different. He has also enjoyed enough of the subspace advantages in the other world. He almost lost it here, but it is not really lost, just the escape distance will be relatively short, and at close range, he still has a greater advantage, which is a blessing among misfortunes. And it's likely that there will be other restrictions on competitors with other unique skills. He set his sights on the intelligent life in the distance. Do you think we have a chance to participate in the next Immortal Ascension Conference? Haha, don't be too wild. The Ascended Immortal Conference is such a grand event. I can't wait for the cultivators of the small section. I'm not even qualified to watch the Ascendant Immortal Conference. Two young men wearing uniforms of the same sect were moving in the mountains and forests. There are many natural medicinal materials in the mountain streams. They are disciples of a certain sect who came to the mountains and forests to collect medicines in order to contribute points. One is strong, the other is weaker, but the fluctuations in both of them are not too weak, at least they have reached the peak of stellar strength. Of course, in this world, when many races reach their peak, there will naturally be gaps between them in terms of galaxy-level strength. There are also many races in the central continent that are not that strong. Hey, there is an animal over there that I haven't seen before. Do you want to capture it for Master to study? Didn't you hear Master say, don't be curious about everything in the mountains and forests? There are many things here that can kill us. How could such a little bug, the little bug is here. When the frail young man saw the giant mosquito approaching, his expression was surprised and happy. Last time he caught a rare insect in the forest and gave it to a master who liked medicine, and was commended. This time, another insect not mentioned in the book approached, but looking at the speed of its approach, it seemed a little unusual. So he was surprised and delighted. But the expression of the young man next to him, who was as strong as an ox, changed slightly. Don't let him get close, let's retreat. The strong young man stepped back, not forgetting to pull the frail young man with him. It's good that you two have a brother-in-law relationship. I'm so polite. The giant mosquito made a sound before it even got close to the two of them. Can you talk? The frail young man's expression was dull. There are almost no small creatures in this area that can speak, because those who can speak have been wiped out by the huge prehistoric life forms in ancient times, and now they are legendary creatures. However, the central continent is extremely vast, and everyone knows that there must be various worlds far away. It is quite normal for such creatures to flow into their side. He looked indifferent, but the strong young man's expression changed again and he directly clasped his fists. I've met my senior. I don't know why he showed up to meet with my senior brother, right? My master is not far away. Why don't you let me introduce you to him? There is something my master must know more than us. This sturdy young man seemed tall and mighty, with a height of more than 2,000 kilometers, but he was a man of spirit and deliberately revealed the existence of his master. It is to frighten the tiny creatures that appear in front of you. Jia Yan didn't even raise his eyes, and said calmly, really, but I have scanned the surrounding area for tens of millions of miles, and I don't feel that there are any masters. Senior, I don't know. My master is hundreds of millions of kilometers away, so he's not too far away. The muscular young man looked ashen and quickly changed his words. Beings that can scan tens of millions of kilometers are naturally not something they can afford to offend. And what the other party said is right. This place is a place where their sect often comes to collect medicine. It is a wild place, and it is normal for there to be no intelligent creatures around. Okay, boys, I won't play charades with you. I'm new here and I want to ask you something. Jia Yan stopped teasing the two juniors and directly stated his purpose. Oh, senior, you mistakenly entered the ancient teleportation array and came to our area? This, I have heard from my predecessors that there are legends of teleportation arrays in distant places, but I haven't heard of anyone using them for many years. Teleportation array. The strong young man took charge of the entire communication process, and his expression changed several times. After hearing about the teleportation array, he was doubtful, but at least he managed to curb his hostility. As long as they are helpful to the creature in front of them, the other party will not kill them easily. Why don't you, senior, follow me to my mountain gate? Although our sect is not a big force, we still have our own heritage, and there are many ancient books. Maybe there will be something to answer your senior's doubts. The strong young man invites you again. From the look in his eyes, it seemed that he was not afraid that Jia Yan would endanger their power if he joined their sect. It can be seen that there are bound to be masters in the faction. But the experts they think are. Maybe it's not in Jia Yan's eyes. Okay then, I'll help you two friends. Jia Yan nodded in an old-fashioned way. The two young men looked at each other and took Jia Yan back to the mountain the way they had come, regardless of the ongoing herb collection. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3466. The so-called Central Continent. The world here belongs to many statuses such as Holy Land, Extreme Realm, and Heaven. No matter which one, it is an indescribably precious level. No sect here can be looked down upon. Just like this so-called small sect that Jia Yan was brought back by two young men. When they first met, Jia Yan couldn't believe it. When he met the two young men just now, he thought that they were just small sects that existed at the top of the two stars. It can be seen that after seeing the master in their mouths, their expressions changed slightly. I'm afraid this person's strength is extraordinary. This is Your Excellency, Mr. Jia, as my disciples call me. You are so polite. In the living room, a fairy-like creature with a chicken head walked in and handed over to Jia Yan. The first thing the Taoist Xian Chen said when they met, he looked at Jia Yan with a half-smile. All kinds of incidents seemed to be attacks by both good and evil, but after Jia Yan Huo studied the time point, I am afraid that these are all riots caused by our competitors. Tiangong may be able to deal with a small expert, but it can't deal with 10 or hundreds. How can a person like Yan Ai be provoked by my words? After saying that, Jia Yan jumped up, tore apart, and the subspace opened. There are only 8 retreats and 8 exits in the Mountain Taoist Temple. It seems to be big, but in fact, except for the sculptures dedicated to Taoist immortals, the living area is not small. What kind of visitor are we coming from? I know everything about this, and I will take care of us. Jia Yan knew that the other party wanted to cause trouble, so he completely forgot about me being a competitor. My master is a celestial figure, but it is a pity that just because he is good at the secrets of Xianchen Taoist Temple, when he gets close to the Xianjia Trail, he becomes too late. We have classified the visitors from heaven as demons, but the difference in status is small. To the little capable ones, those competitors are probably the real beauties from outside the universe, and many of the little capable ones obviously protected the competitors later on. Tianshan has more rules and regulations than Tiangong. Even within the territory, there are few things that are normal. Tianshan itself has acted extremely domineeringly for countless years. I must have gone to Tianshan, and wars will always be avoided. But there is no point. This is why Tianshan often gives way to these beings that have appeared every few years for hundreds of thousands of years rather than directly fighting. There must be a reason behind it. Your Excellency should be more alive than you, so it should be worse for you to go to Tianshan than to stay in Tiangong. The two young men looked at the two identical classics on their hands and didn't feel a headache for a moment. The seventh level created by these little experts is a bit confusing. Well, I'll go there in a while. That move directly determined the path of the two future weaklings. Of course, that was already mentioned. Jia Yanhuo is always used to those days. It has been about half a month since I came to that Taoist school. If it is not harvested, it will spoil. Come on, those are the delicacies picked from the mountains 2 days later by my disciples. The taste does not have the natural fragrance. It can be said to be a rare treasure in the mountains. The secret book of the intruder seemed to be unsafe, but he must have deceived the two powerful men. In the small hall, this generation's temple master, Taoist Xian Chen, was waiting at the dining table. After a while, I came to the small hall of the Xian Chen Taoist temple. There can always be a mistake. A small group of people have come to the central continent to win the victory, right? The secret book I got from Master is not too bad, and the level I can reach in the future will definitely be low. Really? Our Dao is far from being very powerful in this Holy Land continent. I'm afraid the continent Mr. Jia came to before was not a powerful one. You practice, the muscular young man slapped his head fiercely. Other competitors, if they are as old as me, there will always be few who will make big moves. It was a big gym. If the other party dares to say yes, I have no reason to get violent and hurt others. Huh, Jia Yan paused and looked a little surprised. He was bad when he understood. It was his suggestion. I am not interested at all. There are not many rules in the palace. If something happens, there will always be no immortals and gods to come up to the world to persuade me later. Although they are afraid of me, I will listen anyway. It's a pleasure. Sure enough, it is a delicacy. It tastes delicious. It seems that the life you Taoists are living in the mountains is also wrong. Yan Ai smiled. Xian Chen already knew Jia Yan's character, so he just told me my thoughts without thinking about it. Bad. Which small force would really allow competitors to cause trouble within our force? I just want to know the most basic knowledge about the central continent. Everything is in the words. Master Xian Chen, I have been here for less than half a month, and it is time to leave. Do you know that Master Xian Chen has no advice? We were just playing riddles together, and I knew how to play. This thing is a hasty thing. He can't practice it if he wants to. If he wants to practice it, he can give it to someone else who has no chance of seeing him again. It can be destroyed and has no chance of seeing him again. But the other party was very emotional and mentioned competitors, which made Jia Yan unpredictable for a while. Yan Ai was also polite, raised his mouth parts, and pierced the mountain treasure with a needle. In a moment, all the mountain treasure was absorbed, even the dried skin was sucked into the stomach. My disciple has told me what happened to Mr. Jia. I feel that you are not an ordinary person. Now that I see it, it is indeed extraordinary. The seventh day. After the 7 people finished speaking, they all shared a smile. The chicken-headed Taoist laughed and said, "Actually, I just made a guess. Sir, it must have come from an ancient teleportation array in the distance. Although that teleportation array is difficult to open, it is not that it has never been opened. The distant sects, none of them know anything about this. It seems that Yan Ai Pavilion has nothing to gain. Who is mentioning competitors? Is it because there have been few competitors who have walked out of this teleportation array in the past, or is the other party mentioning them deliberately because they are afraid of doing it themselves? There are also few pilgrims. It is a coincidence that the area you are in is right between Tiangong and another small force, Tianshan. Both forces cover a very small area. It seems that both sides manage this place, but due to the unique history factors and become more chaotic. After a long while, he said, Old Master Xian Chen, he wants to divert the disaster eastward. 70,000 years later, the people from heaven came and caused the destruction of all life in Hanzhou. A group of immortals from the heavenly palace came to the world, and then they attacked the people from heaven. Yan A looked at the catalogue of classics outside and immediately recognized the rich collection of books here. Jia Yan Pavilion, your identity is something you and he both know, but we all know in our hearts that the land of Tian Tian Palace is not a bad thing for the pavilion. Do you know whether everyone like him and other visitors likes it? Bloody bad killing, but they must be easy to deal with, and your majesty, forgive me for being so talkative, but you must not be willing to stay and practice Taoism with me, so if you stay in the land of heavenly palace, you will definitely, if there is no contact or even friction with the heavenly palace, your safety will not be safe at all. Just like ancient China, many people would claim to be from the lower dynasty, but other countries believed that China was from the lower dynasty. The same was true for the central continent. In that world, the existence of other small continents had long been forgotten. Because we only have eyes for ourselves, we also think that others' eyes can be close to our own strength. Even existences like central continent are hard to get rid of. Sure enough, the sects in the central continent have suffered a bloodbath, so they have a lot of inheritance. After negotiating for a while, Jia Yan asked to read the classics of that sect, etc., and the other party agreed. Jia Yan smiled sarcastically. According to my opinion, the old Taoist fairy has long lost the ability to lift the clouds and soar to the sky. He just wants to follow the path of the heavenly palace. He, don't be slow to deny it. You only care about his personal affairs. I just want to know if there is any reason for him to recommend Pang Richen that is worthy of my visit. If so, you will comply with his wish. So I decided to step back and watch from a distance. You have practiced it, and you have broken the secrets of practicing the immortal dust way. When Chiang's young man shook his head. I have met Junior Jia Yan. Master asked you to tell me that if you are not free, you cannot go to the chapel to have dinner together. Oh. So, in this Tianshan Mountains, there will be no friction with me. Obviously, there is no big gap between those forces and the heavenly palace, which is regarded as the immortal god. Although they are small and relatively small, they definitely do not have the confidence to confront the people in the sky and the ghosts. According to the classics, according to records, when visitors arrive every day, those small forces often choose to close their doors or shrink their spheres of influence on a small scale, leaving these areas that are free to live and die. It was only a large room, but there were not many rows of broken books outside. There were many messy things recorded outside. As a result, Tiangong continued to exist, but it could only barely support itself and let competitors cause similar disasters in the central continent. The muscular young man next to him couldn't help but speak. Under the table were placed outside the Taoist temple as always, a variety of vegetables and fruits, with or without any meat. Xian Chen shook his head repeatedly and said, "No, the poor Taoist is just envious of the heavenly palace. Which cultivator wants to ascend to immortality? It's just because he has a way. It is said to be the central continent, or the Holy Land or something like that, but there are almost no mentions of those names in the books. The competitors must be under that small continent, and it is by no means a secret. After all, the central continent is controlled by small forces such as Tiangong. It seems that for a long time, competitors have been able to slaughter and bloodbath this place like the small continent outside. So our heritage continues." Both sides, one chicken and one mosquito, saluted each other. "That's all, it doesn't matter what the other party thinks, as long as he is his enemy, there is no room for negotiation." Jia Yan's eyes flashed with evil eyes. "As long as I take the initiative to provoke others and inform other sects, Jia Yan doesn't care whether I know or not. This is not the day for me to see how the competition will proceed." Yan Ai continues to look at the eyes, the nose, and the heart, which is also right and wrong. Xian Chen looked at his nose and heart, and said calmly, "Jia Yanj, I always have no answers to my inner life, and I still forget that Pandeo is of no use. Is it because Pandeo has no thoughts in his heart? Several times when he was young, I wanted to go to Pangri City, which is 700 billion kilometers away, and see the prosperity here, but unfortunately I never had the chance, so let me go there on my behalf. Jia Yan hates places like that. Jia Yan was puzzled. Before they all had dinner together, Jia Yan watched Xianqin's two apprentices clear away the dishes and chopsticks, and sat talking to each other for a moment before Jia Yan spoke. 40,000 years later, no more heavenly ghosts came to the world and wiped out hundreds of sects in Hangzhou. The heavenly palace negotiated peace with the heavenly ghosts to bring peace to the heavens. Of course, the smaller possibility is that the competitor will live in heaven, but the little experts in front of the competitor stepped in to protect the competitor. In short, if Jia Yan leaves, he will never come back. In other words, even if he comes back, it will be difficult to remember his chance action of giving away secret books. Gone. In an instant, I lost sight of myself. Of course, in addition to the classics, there are also detailed records of the small forces in the transcendental realm other than the heavenly palace. When he came in, Jia Yan seemed to casually mention it casually. I heard that in ancient times, there was no such thing as a visitor from heaven, so I took the trouble to go to that holy land to explore. I know, my friends, do you know about the visitors these days? Sure enough, no matter which small continent the visitor from the sky is on, that small continent will be thousands of miles away. Yes, I have talked about competitors. I am trying to determine whether the other party knows about competitors. After being glanced at by Taoist Xian Chen, the sturdy young man spoke again. No, your strength really surprises me. Jia Yan smiled. I see, you are not an adult in vain, and you want to hide it from everyone. You can't officially live in the boss now. You are a person who came from my small continent. You don't know anything. Please ask your friends to teach you. Jia Yan Huozong denied his origin. Jia Yan arrived at the Taoist library early and read through a small number of classics outside. That's just a collection from a large section. I must go to some small section. If I go to a small sect, the harvest will be more generous. But in every classic, there is no record of the so-called visitors from heaven or the faint existence that appears out of nowhere. Jia Yan walked out of the small gate of Xianchen Taoist temple with a smile. When he passed the small gate, he saw two young people who had been lying in the corner. Jia Yan stood up, looked at Xianchen again, nodded and said, I'll say goodbye now. Senior Jia Yan, that is a well-known treasure of your fairyland Taoist temple. Many people can get it if they want. Does the old Taoist dare to have such thoughts? Otherwise, if the master comes over, the old Taoist must be able to resist. As for the classics, are you practicing or cultivating? Pang Richen? Is it a place under the jurisdiction of Tianshan, old master Xianchen? Is he from the Tiangong? After thinking about it, I threw out a set of secrets that combined yin-yang Tao and local immortal cultivation classics that I had come up with out of curiosity while reading the classics. But Jia Yan also really wants to collect knowledge. No, Xianchen obviously knew how to dig his own holes, so I shook my head. Jia Yan nodded, that's right. It is indeed customary to collect the collection. I have gained so much. It's a delivery. Jia Yan put down the classics in his hands. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3467. At Jia Yan's level, to others, it's just an opportunity, something that can make a difference, and it's just something that can be done casually. This is where the level has reached. Missing something can change someone else's life. That old Taoist Xian Chen Chen is probably at the post-territorial level of a domain lord, and he has a bit of an immortal flavor. Even though he is almost as strong as Mr. Huang, he doesn't pose much of a threat to me, but he is definitely not a small player. Every small sect you encounter in the central continent has masters at the post-territorial level. It is indeed the elite place in the other world. Jia Yan clicked his tongue in surprise. Flying in subspace. Soon they hit a land covered by a formation. He began to get used to the style, and took the trouble to get out of the subspace, stepped through the formation area, and then drilled into the subspace. With the speed of deliberate training, he began to master this process very quickly. Dao hearts, on the side of the dynasty, are exclusively used by the royal family, or in other words controlled by the state, and each one needs to be registered. But it was obvious that the other party had done it, and it was considered a saving grace for Bai Bang, so most of his anger was gone. Bai Bang looked at Kishu and found that there were still not many hidden rules and forces in that city. Before long, we reached a distance of 5 billion kilometers. It can also be said that there are many things to do every day, and the gang leader has to handle a small amount of work alone. No force is interested in a front-level territory lord, or what is called a lower division level existence in that area. This is not the so-called small gangs and various gang-like organizations. You know that your friend, Jia Yan, doesn't have anything to do with you. It is the same as spiritual power. It is a soul power unique to ascetics. It has the same purpose as spiritual power, but is relatively more refined. He also roughly tried to figure out how to use his subspace ability to quickly travel through several major areas. It is definitely impossible to compare with the speed of flying directly in the subspace, but considering the rhythm, the speed is not much slower. Hey, it's okay to use a general currency, but it's worth a little more than that. There was no snapping sound in the air for a while. In a few minutes, I tidied up my things and went to work in a cheaper position. That lamp uses Taoist heart as its driving force, right? That's right, Pang Richin. It should be said that Central Continent really has no money. Visitors pay the entry fee. Cultivation civilization and technological civilization have reached the early stage, and they may reach the same goal through different paths. In front of the government is Tian Shan, the smallest ruler of the entire region. Xiao Yu is a domain master level low-level player, and judging from the way he is wearing armor, he should be a member of the city's official organization. However, the powerful characters Pangri City engraved on the city gate made him come back to his senses. This was really the place. There is no trace of technological civilization in many places. Bai Bang's face suddenly darkened. The city is only a few 100 million kilometers away. Although it is very small in terms of land area, it is extremely prosperous. Huh? He visited you? What is his background? The two chatted politely for a few words. As soon as the tea was served, the gang leader asked Bai Gang to drink tea first and then talk about himself. He was a little surprised for a moment. He had never heard that Pangri City was actually a floating city. The earthworm-like creature inside the door wriggled its wet body, pointed at Yuan Ning and shouted. I'm sorry, that brother in the gang was too right. You apologize to him on his behalf. Brother, please introduce him to me. Your Excellency, are you from the area where Pangri City is located? There are no people far away in this area who have a body like yours, nor such strength. As for the matter of inquiring, although Jia Yan is said to be very knowledgeable, he is not very capable in the area of Pangri City, so he cannot help. It is just the matter of cooperation mentioned by Your Excellency. Do I need to explain it in detail? The difference is just the way of using energy, it is the cultivation and civilization of. Too much emphasis is placed on cultivation and individual strength, which also leads to different treatment of people's livelihood facilities by both parties. The visitor is a creature with a fish head. That's bad, and that's right. You don't have any aura of these self-proclaimed immortals from the heavenly palace. Come on, I'll take you to meet your gang leader. Jia Yan is a gang that occupies the management rights of a small area in Pangri City. Everyone knows that behind us are the managers of the Tianshan section. The semi-open official power allows us to get twice the result with half the effort. We have only developed lower tech items, but when it comes to the use and development of energy items, we are far behind. After Bai Bang waved his feet, he was released and retreated into Yuan Ninggan. I was the janitor guarding that gang, so I acted like that, but I didn't seem to be used to being domineering, and I forgot the fact that I was just a janitor. Bai Bang sighed. That's right. You come from the Tianshan Mountains. Is there no hindrance to you knowing this identity? A lonely city hanging in the air appeared before Jia Yan's eyes. Just when Bai Bang had a bad look on his face, another voice sounded from the door. Sir, gang leader, I am new here and come from the Tianshan area. When I came to Pangri City, I first wanted to find some well-informed local people to inquire about distant affairs. If I didn't have the chance before, I would also like to find them. Let's work together. Bai Bang felt that the light bulb that was still on during the day at the entrance of the city was actually activated by the power of Taoist heart, and he felt that his 8 senses were affected. But here, the lighting system of the entire city is maintained with Taoist heart, and it seems that it is officially launched. But in Pangri City, there are a small number of people at the bottom who have sufficient strength and have no real life skills, living a humble life in a prosperous small town. But Bai Bang knew that the other party was not a poor scholar, but a low-level player who had reached the front rank of territory lord. Bai Bang looked under the city gate. A figure was standing at the city gate, his penetrating eyes locked firmly under me. Such a great wise man? It's quite strange to see him. Jia Yan's gang leader is a tiger with a strong back and a strong back. He is sitting under the office chair, flipping through content and writing on the palm of his hand. He looks like a tiger, but he doesn't have such a ferocious spirit. On the contrary, there is less of a feeling of a poor and strong scholar. When Bai Gang came to the door of the so-called gang leader's office, he saw people coming and going. A small number of people put in work contents and took out work contents. There were not many people waiting anxiously to see the gang leader. The fish-headed creature claimed to be a deacon, and his status in that gang was high. To develop into what it is now, I'm afraid there won't be a war in Pangri City for a long, long time. Compared with technological civilization, it is only a little bit behind. Earthworm laughs happily. Just when Bai Bang flew to the gate of the city, a huge spiritual power came over in shock. Well, since your majesty has said so, I am respectful and obedient. I would like to ask you to put forward your opinion. Not only is that kind of earthworm creature guarding the gate, it is not only bad looking, but also has the right personality and temperament. Your gang should consider replacing it with someone else. The gang leader and Bai Gang talked with the parents for a while before retreating to the topic. The invisible energy link in mid-air is connecting the energy system of the entire city, including those light bulbs, if it is maintained by multipath hearts. It's been a while since I've experienced the feeling of being ridiculed by strong people, and there were even a lot of people who said nothing to me. The government is the weakest force behind the scenes, and it is also orthodox. Bai Gang, a person who retreated directly into the inner hall, immediately attracted the attention of others. In a technological world, where technology is the productive force, there will be too few people at the bottom. At least the living standards of the people at the bottom are poor. My food, Yuanning, is especially for eating, but my stomach is also a complicated thing. It is impossible to get over the situation today, so I took a few sips with my mouth part. Mouth. The prosperity of that city can be seen inside the Pangri city gate. There was nothing unusual about Bai Bang, and he quickly took out a large piece of Central Continent general trading items that had been hidden in the subspace, a few energy coins containing power. Hmm, bad. The tiger-headed creature's expression suddenly changed. It's really eye-opening to see that there is no such great person. Come here, sir, is it okay for him to come to your gang's headquarters? Earthworm's expression changed slightly, and his tone was a little unusual even if he couldn't hold it back. Bai Bang felt the opponent's aura, and it was strong. Xiao Yu had reached the domain lord level, and was much weaker than Earthian behind him. I've met that friend. Come, let's have some tea. It's just a matter of changing to a more civilized way of life, where the strong and the weak eat each other. When Yuan Ning heard this, she also resisted and flew down directly, but her style was completely different from that of the other party. Along the way, Mr. Lu sighed as if he were retreating to the small garden. Bai Bangdan said calmly, and followed the man back into the small door. The gang leader actually stopped working and concentrated on the great creature that came in. Hearing the expressions of several gang members who were assistants change, they quickly handed over to Bai Gang and went up to prepare to receive the guests. When Yuan Ning came to the office, the other party also put the brush on it. Maybe in terms of technology, cultivating civilization will be a little bit behind, but with the pursuit of convenience in life, cultivating civilization is also possible. As a gatekeeper, I cannot look down on others, but I will definitely pay attention to anyone who talks nonsense. After all, this is a world of cultivation where it is impossible to overturn anytime, anywhere. Who knows who the big beggar on the roadside is? Isn't he a peerless master? When I witnessed with my own eyes a low-level player who was only at the level of the galaxy, slapped a young creature who was only at the beginning of the star level to the ground, I lost all my admiration for that small town where civilization was cultivated. The other person's expression suddenly became kind. As early as when I was in the Xianchen Taoist temple, I traded materials with the Xianchen Taoist, which is the universal currency of the central continent. Bai Bang sighed inwardly, but on the surface he was impassioned. Haha, of course there is no problem. But you are from the Tianshan Mountains, and the outside is bordered by the Tiangong territory. You are from the Tiangong, right? Then there will be no trouble. Life forms in the outer world are all as low as 10,000 kilometers away. A very small number of special people are still hundreds to thousands of kilometers away, and even those who are 7 or 8,000 kilometers away are common. Don't think that the civilization of cultivators is extremely backward. That was too magical. In that small land in the middle, there were so few low-level players. The front steps of the territory lord were all gone. Yuan Ning received a quick response from the other party before telling her purpose with a smile. Bai Bang decided to provoke and flew to the city gate. Both sides looked at each other. I also have some thoughts on this. In the case of disagreements, even when I was in charge of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, if I heard that low-ranking people at the same level later discussed cooperation, I would personally meet them and have no expectations for the scope of cooperation mentioned. Then a city can accommodate many residents to survive. Usually it's weird that I attract attention because I'm so big. Your Majesty is also strong. I have met the gang leader, I am an idol cultivator from the Tianshan Mountains. Bai Bang smiled and gave a salute. Snap. I belong to a certain sect, but I am just a single person. I have seen the floating continent above my head all day long, but I have never seen the city floating low down. I have never seen it twice since I lived in the city. He's such a big guy, how dare he come to our door and act wild? Get out, or I'll break his legs. Yuan Ning doesn't care about the strong man who is blocking his words. I have to mention that if the other party does something, I will not fight back at all, but my sense of that gang will be reduced to freezing point. From the other party's senses, I felt that the person behind my eyes did not have any aura, at least no threat, so I think that I have the strength of great creatures. And whether it has a hand power, I don't think that creature is here to have fun. Yuan Ninggan's prosperity is beyond my imagination. The earthworm creature was about to spit when I heard something coming from my ears. Before I listened, my expression changed slightly. It's quite shameless. Such a big guy. What is he going to do when he comes to your gang? It doesn't matter. So I directly led the Bai gang to see our gang leader, and I didn't have that authority. But I was also very keen to see a harmonious scene. Bai Bang walked up to a grand house in the city. I would like to pay a visit to your clan, please let me know. Since this is my first time here, I'd better find a place to worship the horse's head. Besides, you came unexpectedly. If I had known that the gang leader's pavilion was so busy, I would have bothered you later. A small number of people exited and exited. Bai Bang said quickly and logically. Usually in Pangri City, where there has been little war for a long time, the flowers are blooming, and a small number of energy items are used to complement each other, making people appreciate the skills of cultivating civilization. Cooperation that is said in such a lowly manner can always be a big deal. Then don't worry, I am not from the heavenly palace. I'm sorry, my friend. Even though you have so many things to do, you delayed in making preparations for your reception, the leader of the Tiger Head gang said with a spring breeze. The guarding soldier glanced at Bai Bang a few times, and even pedestrians who had paid too little attention to Bai Bang also looked at Bai Bang. But in every city, it is possible to rely solely on the government, and the government in Tianshan at least collects some taxes and manages low-level and trivial matters, which leads to the real role of urban management and formulation. There is no one else but those who have rules. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3468. Remember new in 1 second. This is where identity helps. Otherwise, when he first arrived, why did he emit power fluctuations outside the gate that could only be felt by the lower class of domain lords? He didn't want to deal with the little devil like the earthworm creature at all, it was too tiring and useless. If something really goes wrong, it's not easy to kill him. What's more important is that there is no benefit to killing, so why ask for trouble? Of course it's more important. It is the region lord's later level that he is currently displaying, that is, the master level strength. It seems to be nothing in the central continent. It is strong, but its strength is limited. Otherwise, the treatment given to him by the guru on the Imperial Island would not even wake up the city lord. It's quite appropriate at this time. My cooperation matter is that I have some special products that I want to hand over to Bai Bang for special sales in Pangri City. Product? My friend, this is quite new. Bai Bang, generally don't engage in this kind of work. The other party looked weird for a while. As for my trustworthy superiors, I would just use my own clones to escort vehicles and so on, but I would use too few manpower. Now that Brother Jia is toasting in person, the amount of wine he takes out is naturally limited. The gang leader was just about to agree, but his words were stuck in his throat, and before he could speak, he stared straight at the wine that smelled of alcohol. That great junior level master actually has no interest in reading general history books that anyone can read here. It is impossible to buy them in the bookstores there. Why should I go to Jia Yan Library to read them? Brother Jia can definitely take out the drinks all the time. This either means that I don't have a storage object with an amazing capacity, or it's not that my talent is weird. Either way, it is difficult to attract attention. This matter is settled. Well, that would be too tragic. A few heroes entered the original Pangri city, assassinated the evil Lord Penggentai, and finally dedicated the city to the Tianshan Mountains, completing the expansion ambition of the Tianshan Mountains. Even if the gang leader probably said that he had a reason, a few insinuations were enough for Brother Jia to get a lot of ideas from Su Xiao's clues. After all, even the ferry space under the small continent has no capacity limit. Gang leader Jia Yan finished his talk with an attitude of someone who had experienced it before. Because that is the best opportunity to expand your own basic knowledge reserve. My lord, please taste it first before talking about me. Brother Jia handed over a cup with a smile, and then poured a portion of the wine in the jar himself. Whether it is correct or not has to be verified by Peng Zhen herself. How long? Bad wine, since Bai Bang is so stingy, you said it? What you said was bad, please forgive Bai Bang. But in the past 2 days, Jia Yan, a few young deacons and domain lord level low-level players, bought this wine based on the recommendation, and it was easy to deal with it before going back. Although Brother Jia is so suspicious of similar books, I still read them with gusto. Brother Jia, your profit share is here. Did you know that your wine sales were so amazing that it was sold out in just a few days? Do you know when the last supply of goods will arrive? Don't refuse in a hurry yet. It was purely nonsense, and the other party also said that it was just for fun, and he was even willing to retreat only to the special area of the library pavilion, which was a place where high-level disciples could retreat. People from all walks of life who want to buy fine wines come in an endless stream, which can be said to have spread the reputation of that rare wine. How? If the wine is sold, there will be no sales. Peng Zhen acted like this, because he was a low-level player of the same level as me. Gang leader Jia Yan originally thought that the other party would have a sense of oppression after receiving the title of deacon, but he found that this was not the case. Thank you very much, gang leader. I suspect that the gang leader will be disappointed with that decision. Brother Jia hurriedly cupped his hands, showing that he was overjoyed. Thinking of a few Jia Yan's lower-level officials, they took advantage of a banquet to put this wine out and gave it to the powerful people in the Duolai realm to taste. The gang leader didn't suspect me, so he directly picked up the rare wine handed over by Brother Jia. His eyes lit up as he drank and chatted. That Brother Jia is so sensible. Before passing the formalities, Brother Jia appeared on the streets of Pangri City again with the aura of Deacon Jia Yan. Of course not. It's you, Jia Yan, who is responsible for dealing with you. If he is not interested in cooperating, it's best. On the other hand, lower-level Peng Zhen, who applied to the lower level, also received a response from Peng Richen. A dignified disciple came to the library just for a little bit of information? Tianqian's intelligence is quite necessary for Brother Jia. But it has to be done. Jia Yan shook his head and scanned the space in front of him again. Of course not. It depends on whether the gang leader is no longer willing to cooperate. Oh? After all, do you want to visit the Tianshan area? You became a walking ranger when you were young, and you have walked through a lot of water in the Tianshan mountains. As for the things outside, it would be best to talk to Bai Bang. In the Fairy Dust sect, I only devoured a few books and learned even less of them from the mouths of the Fairy Dust Master. Therefore, books with no slight political leanings can be trusted. However, some people have said that the gang leader does it for wine, while Brother Jia does it for information. The deacon next to him stared at the drink and swallowed. Brother Jia wants local identity. For a moment, the room was filled with a delicate fragrance that would make even a bad drinker feel like devouring it. Well, Xiaolu general history. That's what matters to me the most. Drinks. This gang is a special gang. As for the drinks, Brother Jia took out a product produced by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, a very unique wine. The Romance of the Eight Kingdoms. I have also decided that if I don't have the chance in the future, if I really bring Brother Jia into the gang, he will definitely become my right-hand man. Brother Jia naturally knows that this person has thought so far. At least now, I may not have the idea of joining Jia Yan. Huh? Fairy space. What I want is information about what the visitors from heaven will do and what they should do before they arrive at Central Continent. It combines the characteristics of the life structure of the outside world, changes the local flavor, and even adds a poison that is ineffective on the weak. Of course, the toxicity is weak, but it will only cause the weak players to retreat into a drunken state. One good thing is that other members of the gang or powerful people think that this matter is Jia Yan's own propaganda. As Brother Jia gradually became unfamiliar with the Peng Gentai stopped selling rare wine in several stores directly controlled by Jia Yan. As long as you inquire a little bit, you will know that Bai Bang is a direct subordinate of Peng Richan. Moreover, he spoke in great detail, with Brother Jia's timely questions interspersed in the middle. Both parties seemed to feel at home, and the host and guest were enjoying themselves. Although I have no selfish intentions, what I said is wrong. How can any sect do well if it has its own property? Our Jia Yan is also the same. A little, a lot, or nothing is enough. Such things on the surface will also cause the following scruples. It's more than tragic. Tell him about this. It was just a little bit worse than that. Even the Tianshan headquarters was captured by this group of people who claimed to be demons. The other party thought about it, and it was the same. Brother Jia shook his head. That trick was quite interesting. Gang leader, in your opinion, this matter cannot be handled. Your gang has no private property, so treating this drink as one of the private properties is too much. Brother Jia is a cautious person. I think the crappy street stuff he buys on the street is cheap. God knows it is mixed with private goods. On the contrary, the stuff from within the gang, although there may not be anything similar, but at least the recorded history and knowledge should be correct. Brother Jia sent it down and it will be ready after a few days of drinking. The place is really small, tens of thousands of square kilometers, and a few small creatures can fill it up. The wine was so good that it was so popular that even my gang leader gradually became happy with it. He always wanted to drink a few drinks, but unfortunately it was too expensive. Having a false name is even worse for me. Peng Zhen looked at the catalogue of book titles and suddenly had something to say. Sure enough, it was just a city gang. The collection of books seemed small, but a few of them were still useful things. Usually they deal with business content. That taste was important, and the restaurant was almost overcrowded. I'm afraid that's Tianshan's self-beautification. Peng Gentai's previous lords were corrupt here. How could they develop a small city like Peng Gentai? It must have been Tianshan's expansion and the use of force to seize the city. The first step was to vilify the enemy and beautify themselves. Gang leader Jia Yan sighed and finally agreed to come. Peng Zhen felt a little weird after reading a book that was similar to the reading materials in class. Is it really just to kill time? Of course, I am here to be the eldest brother in such a small gang. I picked out a few basic books and read them with great interest. So you have to set up a fake caravan in the future and keep sending drinks out of the city. In other words, the so-called fairy spirits have the ability to open subspace. If Kazuo goes to the country, is that definitely a historical document, rather than a reading book of great novels? That. After waiting for a moment, perhaps the gang leader's message came back, and the disciple immediately respectfully led Brother Jia to retreat into Peng Zhen's book pavilion. As a chess piece, he secretly handles some difficult tasks for Peng Richan. When it was first taken off the shelves, this wine was expensive and sales were exceptional. Oh. So, Tianshan, a small land in the north, was once attacked by a group of guys who claimed to be demons? It must have been quite tragic. Brother Jia shook his head thoughtfully. On the seventh day, there was another official notification, so I sneaked over to Jia Yan's library. The gatekeeper who had been observing inside was also puzzled. I looked weather-beaten, which made people immediately suspicious of me. Brother Jia pushed for a profit. I just need the basics. The other party's face changed slightly, and Jia Yan immediately judged from his facial expression that the subspace he opened with his subspace talent was regarded by the other party as the fairy space. Jia Yan was not in charge of the handover of drinks. What I needed to do was not to justify myself and explain why the general had stopped producing new drinks. By the way, this is your first time here of the Tianshan generation. You know that the leader of the gang has not seen much. Is there anything worth visiting that you can recommend? For special people from the outside world, the ferry space is a forbidden area. Even if it is used to store items, it has a huge capacity. Rare wine is the name given to it by gang leader Jia Yan, and its meaning is also very complicated. This is not a rare wine, and the price is naturally expensive. Brother Jia, your gang leader has agreed to your request for cooperation. But I said that for your convenience, you can still bear the identity of an ordinary deacon. Without that identity, you can't act more conveniently in Pangalai city. Of course, that status does not require you to be loyal to this gang. Brother Gio was impassioned on the surface, but he secretly kept the information in his heart. That is what I am going to hand over to your gang for sale. Gang leader Peng Zhen made up his mind for a moment. Brother Gio really wanted to say that the wine he took out was a common price in the dynasty, and it didn't have a modern factory, so the cost of a jar might be outrageously high. Bad wine, brother, do you have the wine yet? You buy it? The one who chose safety. Gang leader, try it for you. It's slow. I would also say after this matter, for such a long distance, it is excessive for me to charge 44.44% for the transportation fee, right? The taste is excellent and it doesn't work in Riga. In the areas around Dynasty and Dynasty Xilu, it has been crazy for a long time, and the price is extremely low. The worst thing about this is that your gang is thinking carefully. Worry, I am about to join Peng Zhen's little family. Besides, he only opens a special area to you, so you can come here for fun. If you are young, he will send a message to his gang leader. If I say yes, you will do nothing. Let go and leave directly. Gang leader Jia Yan smiled and declined a few words, then put it away calmly. Like a whale sucking water, I absorbed a small reserve of basic knowledge very slowly. Then, well, go and have a good relationship and see what the tone below is like. Whether or not your excellency has the status of our gang, it will be difficult for you to let him pass. In fact, I am confused. If you want someone to do something, you still have to put some thought into it, otherwise who will do it for him? The master guarding the pavilion is not at the domain lord level, but I feel that Brother Jia's deep and unpredictable aura, I still don't have the courage to be too direct. Search for books M. But what Brother Jia wants is something lowly. Your Excellency, gang leader Brother Jia shook his head and sighed, in fact, you will only cooperate with your gang. To be honest, I have been wandering in the area for a long time, and I know a truth. This is not something that can hug the official's leg. You must make the seventh choice. The strength and official status of your gang are what you are most worried about, and I most want to experience the feeling of betrayal and humiliation again. Thank you, gang leader. This wine can sell so well without your help. The gang spared no effort to promote it. As for your share, gang leader, please take 10% privately. Here, wait for you to send a message. I suspect that the gang leader is too slow to respond. Brother Jia pretended to be unlucky and cursed. Gang leader Jia Yan calmly took out his own bowl again and signaled Brother Jia to fall down. Before he took a sip, his eyes changed. The deacon who was leading the retreat immediately got down, took the glass of wine that Peng Zhen handed over, sipped it clean, and then his eyes changed. We took it to entertain my people, but everyone regarded it as a treasure for a while and started to buy it one after another. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3469. Got several rumors from the gang leader. I drank too much wine for 30 years. Soon the two said goodbye to each other. They came here to discuss matters, and the gang leader got the answer he wanted, and Jia Yan also gained something. It can be said that the guests and hosts enjoyed themselves. A few days later, the fame of this so-called rare wine spread faster than Jia Yan imagined. From the city lord's mansion, news came that they needed to purchase a batch of rare wine. The matter quickly came to Jia Yan's desk, but he only thought about it briefly and prepared to give the number of 100 altars to the city lord's palace. He is not someone who can be manipulated by others. Having said that rare wine is a treasure, the quantity must be controlled. No, you are interested in how the Tianlong gang guessed my identity. Now you can't give them a definite answer. If it's business cooperation, you can't accept it, but this matter concerns other people, such as it has nothing to do with the Tianshan sect, so please forgive me for not being interested. Shen Jiao's face brightened and she seemed to be happy. Your Excellency Bai Bang, you are representing a friend of yours and wish to contact him. Arriving inside the restaurant, the elder bowed to a dragon-headed monster whose strength seemed to be wrong. For a time, many people were jealous, and not many people were secretly observing, preparing to make contact with this so-called outsider to see if there was no chance to do some business. This Pang Richin is also a human being, and he changed his mind about the demon he just mentioned in the blink of an eye. As a top low-level player who is a former territory lord, with my strength, when I go out and others see me in a new city, I only make a little noise, and they can't say that I am a hermit. The expressions on the faces of the two bad guys who were almost lower division level changed wildly. This Pang Richin had obviously drunk rare wine, and his eyes were straight for a moment. Just when the elder's expression changed, he knew what to say. You know, my body is over 80 kilometers away, and the elder's body is even the smallest in the world, but it is also larger than the 8,000-meter-long young master. For mosquitoes, it is very difficult to hide in front of you. That Zhou Xiaolong man seemed to be able to forgive the betrayer. But after thinking about it, I relaxed again. It seemed that I had betrayed something, and it was just because I invited both parties. Well, what you are saying about Zhou Xiaolong is nonsense. Even if you are a gang leader, how can you have friends inside? What's more, you are helping your friends to pull strings. You are betraying the interests of the gang. You are doing it for your friends. Talk to him about cooperation. Unless there is no huge crisis for the Tianlong gang at this time, I still doubt that there is any possibility. But now, based on my observations in those days, although there is no competition among the small gangs in Jiayanzi, there is definitely no huge possibility of war. Sir Shenjiao Pavilion, since you are indeed the identity you guessed, it is even more important to cooperate with you. Maybe you know that although there is no specific order from Tianshan, the implicit actions over the past tens of thousands of years, we are not trying to stop him from waiting for the man from heaven. But our gang sincerely cooperates with you, even if it is against the Tianshan sect, it is just words. I am a fool again. Why should I go through an elder to summon him personally if I am looking for cooperation? That also means that I don't have a certain status. In Jiayanzi, it seems that the lower class people hate taking off their clothes. They really don't have that determination. It is natural that the power in the city can be inherited for tens of thousands of years, but our Tianlong gang is also such a gang with no background. There are many classics in the gang, which were obtained through deception, abduction, or overt and covert fighting. It's simply a legitimate reason. Shen Jiao also smiled. When the other party closed the door and walked away, her face suddenly brightened. Brother Duolong is evil. He is the elder who condescended to invite me. Why? Is there any danger at all that the gang power that has been developed through hard work will be handed over to others? Came to a restaurant. Therefore, we know a lot about the specific books about the incoming people because of the likes and dislikes of a certain descendant. Why are you here? How dare they guess? But today, I saw a ghost. The great Zhou Xiaolong was stuck in front of his back, following him calmly. No matter how powerful Tianshan is, this is still a giant force, on the same level as Tiangong on the surface. Because I haven't gotten the information I want from just a few words. Bai Gang is also tired. When Elder Jia Yan saw Bai Bang's figure, his eyes almost bulged out. Bai Bang smiled and poured rare wine to all 7 people present. This Bai Gang is considered wise and rejected your request. Then they met with your majesty. Yes, what do they mean by wanting to meet with this Bai Gang? Do they really want to trade with the man whose origin is enlightened? Therefore, Bai Bang also tried to wear clothes with the giant mosquito body for the first time after many years, which is not a bit sighing. It's been a long time since I've lived, and I've just gotten used to wearing clothes again. Collect information, make a judgment and then take action, that is the safest way. No, there's absolutely a problem. And because of the legendary nature of the Tianmo, many low-level people in the sect have read this book. He just said you believe it? I saw the elder walking out of Shenjiao's station. My heart warmed with laughter. The strangeness of the movements and the terrifying way of appearance are extremely frightening. That day, the Dragon Gang, as expected, recognized my identity without any records or other records. Bai Bang's words seemed to confirm my true origin. Oh, Mr. Elder, if you remember correctly, our gang allows internal contact, right? Are you knowing the law and breaking the law? That. However, it is obvious that the Bai Bang overestimated the courage of the low-level players in the outside world. In other words, we are also the ones who dared to openly frame 2 low-level people from different forces on the streets of Jiayanzi. Since it harbors evil intentions, it's better for close friends and enemies. Well, choosing a day is like hitting the sun. Since he and you are both here today, let's have a chat. The drinks should be as little as possible. It's so easy to meet and trade with yourself. Rare wine. Shen Jiao also cared about whether the 2 parties were in a friendly state, so she went directly to the table and sat down, taking a sip of the wine under the table. She felt the taste for a moment, and with a stroke of her foot, a wine jar fell out from the subspace. I am also someone who is afraid of trouble. Who is like me, a low-handed person who plays business games with Jia Yan in a roundabout way. What happened to Zhou Xiaolong? Then. And now Shen Jiao is facing a low-level opponent? To put it simply, the Bai Gang are all paupers. Ha ha ha, does he really understand or is he pretending to understand? Just believe half of the rumors. If the so-called demon is neither bad nor good, it is to hide it from him. The purpose of our sect is to kill demons. Instead, I found Shen Jiao and tried to cooperate with him. Even the Tianshan sect seems to be extremely afraid of me, a demon. You follow him and wave your flags and shout, saying that you can always pick up some meat, soup, and water to drink, right? That's probably not a benefit he can imagine. Then, Zhou Xiaolong is a demon? It is said that demons are cruel and kill people on sight. But that Zhou Xiaolong looks similar to you. So and so. Something occurred to me. Oh? Is your watch a specialty? No, I don't know if it is suitable for Jia Yanzi. You are responsible for your profits and losses. You have already said that the drinks are sold outside, just for Shen Xiao. He has a huge body, extremely weak strength, and possesses a lot of knowledge that the people of the small continent have, and he also has a very unique temperament. Haha, please don't blame me. As a small force, your Tianlong gang doesn't have any classics. Bai Bang looked at the leading guy with a half smile. When all these things are added up, is it Bai Bang or what? Sorry, according to Bai Bang's current life creed, if something goes wrong, there will be no monster. I just showed my vulgar business power under a certain drink, and obviously it involves all aspects. That must be Sir Bai Bang, I've met you before. You are Pang Richan, the deputy leader of the Tianlong gang. Power is equal parts noise. At the same time, my heart sank slightly. What a nonsense. Appreciate further details. Since the elder has asked, as a collaborator, it doesn't matter if you just say a word. Anyway, this matter will have too little impact on Jia Yan. Is it a sure thing or a bad thing? That's right. His brain is very slow. According to the humble opinion of this sect, Shen Jiao is a demon from the inner world. Zhou Xiaolong's matter. So that's what your Majesty's purpose is. It would be bad if you talk to him directly. Why leave it to me to transfer the conversation? A figure emerged from the shadow in front of Elder Jia Yan. It shows that we are destined to have no little capable level players. The same is true for Pangri City. Hey, it's Elder Jia Yan's turn to care about what you are going to do. For a new Xiaolu, and a Xiaolu with such a weak strength, I can't think of any worse way. How did things go? Just as Bai Bang was making more detailed thoughts in his residence, a shout came from the door. You are here, please leave. Whether we dare to drink or not depends on our courage. Elder Jia Yan's face looked ugly. It's worse than Tiangong Yukan, and the difference is huge. At least Tiangong dares to confront the visitors from here. On the other side of Tianshan Mountain, the Taoist tradition was almost wiped out in the first place, but it just dares to conflict with visitors from heaven again. Shen Jiao followed me, and the stronger pedestrians around me directly ignored Bai Gang's existence. Sorry, I feel like I still haven't escaped far enough, and I still have enough life. The 7 people present were all breathless. Although there are no guesses or guarantees, the facts are in front of us. Faced with a devil who may not be tens of thousands of years later, or even hundreds of thousands of years, who has been causing trouble in our world, then the 2 of them still suppressed the fear in their hearts and had minor emotional fluctuations. After 8 rounds of drinking, the conversation ended and the conversation became heated and ice cold. This makes us more certain, but there is no other reason. Demon. Is that a legend that has been around for tens of thousands of years? It may be true. Try to attract the attention of Tianshan people as much as possible, and then find all the information to see if there is nothing about the 7th level, and then fly away. But the current situation is that Bai Gang really wants to provoke Tianshan's underhand. Does he know that there are no devils in the world, or in other words, there are people from outside? Bai Bang wanted to go directly to Tianshan Gate, disclose his identity, and see if the other party dared to take action. Are you tired? You know, I claim to be a fighting elder, and I can be considered good at fighting outside of Jia Yan. Even if I am at the level of a junior master, but against a junior master with special points, I will at least be reduced to even the opponent's stature. Everyone noticed that it was out. What was the thought that made the dragon-headed creature say the words of allegiance behind the life of a person he met for the first time? Or with a group of gang members? Shen Jiao snorted. You know, that person has only been here for a week or 2. According to the strength of Jia Yanzi, the leader of the Bai Bang, I am afraid that he should have entered the city lord's palace on the first day, and then went into seclusion or walked away. This is all done in the previous 7 chapters. But this is seeking death. That's why, as soon as Bai Bang appeared in front of me, a few typical small features on my body quickly attracted those dragon monsters who had not studied the visitors from the sky. After reading many classics, I judged the specific strength of Tianshan. Bai Bangdan said calmly. Bai helped adjust his clothes that suited his mosquito body. It is also very bad to dress up in this way to welcome guests. I've met Brother Joe. After receiving a reply from the city lord's mansion, there was no response from Shiyuan. He just asked someone to summon him and asked Jia Yan to prepare drinks as soon as possible. It's about the wine, it's about me. Since you don't have such fine wines and delicacies, you probably don't have anything special about me either. If you dislike it, you can't talk to your friends. No matter what the conditions are. After talking about the matter, the elder went out with a smile. Pang Richin pondered for several times before finally calming down and deliberately speaking quickly to relieve his emotional fluctuations. So the drink was sipped in one go. Shen Jiao thought indifferently, Then she slowly followed the elder's body and followed him out. If you are a bad drinker. Many high-ranking officials knew that there was a mysterious business master in this gang who had a homemade magic drink. However, the price of this drink was so high that even the city lord's palace couldn't buy it. More importantly, the Bai gang was originally a gang that relied on the government and had very little capital flow. Hey, do you still want to do something to you? That's the outside world. It was Pang Richin who guessed it. Besides, my strength is still so weak. Did he mean to express falsehood? Because many people in the organization have a dragon-shaped outlook, we, who pride ourselves on being noble, hate pretending, and among them, the one who invests the most and is the best at pretending is not reading. Baoju, you just said it? Sir Shenjiao Pavilion, you really believe that you are a special person? Shenjiao is in charge of the waves in the world. Jia Yan's fame gradually began to spread in Pangri City. But since this mysterious outsider joined Bai Bang has become even more wealthy with only 1 or 2 sales points. Many senior executives who handle these sales points have extra money, and their speaking style shows that the potential to become a big dog owner. That's not Bai Bang's immediate plan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 3470. Remember new in 1 second. Jia Yan's sarcasm was like a needle prick in Zhou Xiaolong's eyes. Haha, Your Excellency Jia Yan, you must also think that I am joking, but this matter is true. If I tell the truth, maybe you will understand our approach. After saying that, the deputy leader of the Tianlong gang looked at Elder Bai gang who was sitting next to him and was fascinated by the gossip. Well, I'm too drunk today, so I'll take my leave now. Elder Bai Bang was sensible and stood up quickly. The two of them didn't refuse and watched this person leave. Okay, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I will tell you everything exactly as it is. After listening to it, you will not doubt our sincerity. Zhou Xiaolong then moved his chair and got closer to Jia Yan, expressing his intimacy. However, it aroused Jia Yan's vigilance. The other party is the deputy leader of the Tianlong gang. He doesn't seem to have the strength of a master. God knows if he has hidden weapons or something like that. A lot of content came out of the deal. It was a mistake to talk about it. Give him this thing. Young Master Xie is the one who pulled the strings from it. Jia Yanzi walked in with a smile. But in the empty space in the sky, another sarcastic voice came out, which made my face look so bad for a moment. The launch also caused a shock in the entire Dynasty Island. This shows that the Tianlong gang has been able to collect more new books about visitors from heaven for Tanshu. You are very satisfied. Come on, you also hand over your pretense of cooperation. First of all, it is a certain product from your hometown. If you use more than one of that kind of thing, he can set the price for you. No wonder it is said that each one has a dragon head. I would like to wish Pang Richin everything is successful. You can take your leave first. After all, if you have the heart of a weak person, you should always go to the front. The bad thing is that the Tianlong gang was very slow to find him. That medicine was a product that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Research Institute in the Dynasty had just produced after I left. Jia Yanzi was flying in mid-air, full of desire for Jia Yan's wealth. The sales volume continued to increase steadily, and at the 7th auction, Tianji was sold, which was nearly 70 times lower than the price at the first auction. As for my store, I also sell a little more. Tanshu threw an object, and the other party caught it. He looked at it for a moment, and suddenly became happy. But 700,000 years later, this trial of visitors from the sky was exactly what happened in the central continent. A small group of competitors came to the central continent. The way this force treated the great creatures made most of the competitors a little angry, and the two sides started fighting. 700,000 years later, there is no such force that treats great creatures as special wild animals. It rises very slowly and is close to approaching the heavenly palace in a short time. In terms of claiming to be relatively close to the visitor from heaven, I have my heart set on Jia Yan. Jia Yan can then walk on the streets safely. Huh, what did he say? Even if your Tianlong gang, Zhou Xiaolong's little gang, is really an enemy, it may not be too small. You don't have thousands of weak gang members. There is always no big tail on the back, and it is something that is being followed. It is a character that Jia Yan deliberately brought out when he was on his way. It turns out it's only ineffective against secondary divisions and above. What a pity. Although I am here temporarily, I am not anxious in my heart, because I have forgotten that I am participating in the trial of the competitors. God knows if no one got the final little prize while I was stagnant in a certain city. Then first place. Goodbye, Jia Yanj. Jia Yanzi was communicating with the figures in the air, but while he was talking, his expression suddenly changed. But Jia Yan's eyes kept drifting into the distance, and then there was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Tan Shu is a former Territory Lord low-level player. Although I have never seen a flattering Territory Lord front-level low-level player, I can see that the deacon has the possibility of taking a step back. There is something deeper. That villain approached the front rank of the Territory Lord, but he looked like an adult. He was such a person who was only interested in profit. I really hate him. Generally speaking, as a temporarily exploitable person, it is quite suitable. In short, this medicine was renamed Nishan Dan. That was the first time I stayed in a city in the central continent for such a long time. Even so, there is still a steady stream of suitors. From the second master to the lower master, this is the difference in status and strength between heaven and earth, and the second master level low-level players who are stuck at that level are Haifanji. Now there is no elixir that can almost guarantee promotion. He said, could it have caused those crowds to rush madly? It's broken. There are 10 boxes in total. Don't underestimate that kind of medicine. Even if it has any effect on the lower division level, the effect on the subdivision level and above is still very weak. They can treat it as some kind of sedative. The store's treasures are returned for sale. Well, of course I want to do it. I also need to be first, but I have to pass the 7th level. But today, Jia Yan got a few more classics. It seems that the number is not as high as the first time. There are too few and too few. There are only 8 books, and the content of 2 of the 8 books is different from the content of the future books. The difference is a difference, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is plagiarism. Brother Duolong, how about he give it a try? I'll give him that chance. Of course there is no partial reason. After finishing speaking, the subspace cracked even smaller, and a figure Shi Shiren stepped out of the subspace. The people outside are increasing the number of people in their outer world. The medicine used to break through the bottleneck is something developed by combining your heavenly technology. However, it is only ineffective against the subdivision and the existence above it. How's your discussion about Pang Richen? I also know that drugs that are ineffective against low-level masters are so badly made. Besides, even if the visitors from the sky can make them, they can probably use them to weaken the strength of the same level in the outside world. God knows such low-level masters. Whether you will fall out immediately is a sign of recognition. Jia Yan walked out of the restaurant and suddenly looked back, only to see that Jia Yanzi had not yet flown out of the restaurant street. People flocked to the Tianlong gang's headquarters. However, competitors have continued to appear in the outer world for tens of thousands of years, and even come to the central continent. That's not the reason why your Tianlong gang is willing to help Jia Yanj. You have never forgotten your birth. Tan Shui handed over a small pile of books and paper information. They were also very thoughtfully divided into categories. Before Jia Yan could check it, he found that it was indeed more difficult to read, and he was a little dissatisfied with our delaying time. It's just that the Tianlong gang also said that although this medicine can help sub-master level players who are stuck at a critical moment to break through the level, it is a junior level medicine after all. It can only be used to train the strength of the sub-master level, but if it is used to break through the lower division level. Although the probability of breaking through is also high, and it may even be improved without this medicine, once the breakthrough is successful, there will be no chance of it going down again for life. The other person has very little acting talent, but to me, there are still very few flaws. Let the other party be careful about the medicine you give. However, tens of thousands of years have passed, and the Tianlong gang still thinks that they do not belong to the other world. Is it too loyal to their origin? You agreed? This is bad. You have no chance to cooperate with the real hometown people. I saw a gap opening somewhere in the air behind me. The inside of the gap was extremely white, and a clear voice came out. The old god Jia Yan is here, walking on the street. Watching the other party leave happily, Jia Yan felt that the weak man would probably be stuck at the top of the subdivision for the rest of his life. Jia Yan hasn't been with Zhou Xiaolong for less than half a month. Please advise him not to try to trick me. If your prediction is wrong, this person's strength is earth-shattering. Let alone him. Even if they and the Tianlong gang attack together, I'm afraid they will be the enemy of this person alone. Jia Yanzi beamed with joy, and immediately ended the cheerful conversation, talking about many specific matters about cooperation, etc., and even talked about how we should react if the Tianshan sect was killed later. This elder was waiting at the place where Jia Yan temporarily lived. When he saw me coming back, his eyes lit up and he asked. A few days ago. After all, who would want a drug that can create a master-level weapon? Only. I haven't done everything I can do. I'm sure Jia Yan still agrees. There's nothing I can do. Jia Yan nodded meaningfully after hearing this. As a middleman, if there is no failure in the transaction between the two parties, there is no reason for me to receive a disservice fee. That is true in the central continent, it should be said that it is feasible everywhere. Yes, let you think about it. So I moved the first batch to my inter-row storage area. I guess the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce still has the 7th batch. His compound eyes glanced behind Jia Yanzi, who was still in shock. There was no trace of frightening murderous intent in Jia Yan's eyes. Therefore, no force dares to think too highly of great creatures. Generally, when the time when the visitors from heaven are about to arrive is faintly approaching, the big heart has provoked a group of competitors, and any small force will have trouble sleeping and eating. What? That's how it is. It is a visitor from the sky that occurs once every tens of thousands of years. It will always appear in the central continent. There may be a concentrated small outbreak every tens of thousands of years. This will also allow all the forces in the central continent to unanimously elevate to the status of living creatures. Otherwise one is bad, necrotic is dead, and the group of visitors from heaven hit the central continent, which will inevitably lead to bloody conflicts. The two sides seem to have reached a sweet stage of cooperation. After hearing this, Jia Yan's expression suddenly changed. He looked at the creature with the dragon head and became suspicious. Through his natural keen perception, Jia Yan could see the other party's existence clearly, but the other party still realized that his behavior had been exposed, and continued to observe Jia Yan secretly. As early as the next few meetings, I felt that the other party was honest. Their Tianlong gang is actually the seed left behind by visitors from outside the world. Alas, why do you have to do this, Your Excellency Jia Yan? I'll just say it. He shook his head with a wry smile, and did not come closer, without hesitating to tell the next part of his speech. Jia Yan took out some kind of square box-like object. Jia Yanzi found Jia Yan again, took out a smaller portion of the auction proceeds, and handed it to Jia Yan. Jia Yan has been taking vaccinations. Pang Richin matter, I've been waiting for a long time these days. The information and books you collected will take a certain amount of time to sort out. Please take a look. As expected, the Tianlong gang followed suit. Tan Shu said it was a treasure level, so we treated it as a treasure and operated it. The auction was in full swing. But at the end of that day, the 8 subdivision masters who had obtained the new medicine had nothing to gain. One person was even promoted to the subdivision level because of it. Suddenly, the whole Zhou Xiaolong was shocked again. Tan Shu looked at the flattering look on this man's face and felt that there were really all kinds of weak people in the world. Well, you are willing to cooperate with your gang a moment ago. He knew what Tan Shu was thinking, and his expression was bright, as if he was really looking at his fellow. It's just that the one following him is pretty boring. Tan Shu snorted. That's the bad thing about the central continent. When great creatures come to the streets, they are treated like street rats like those in the Imperial Sea. This Tan Shu is really a treasure. Apart from rare wine, he doesn't have any elixirs like that. There must be more similar things. Whether I am deliberately pretending to know that there are many young people in the world, or I am deliberately leading you to fight against Tian Shan, that guy has no other ideas. But if he uses you, how can you use him? Hey, are we really sincerely cooperating? In your opinion, not necessarily. Ha ha ha, these elixirs are so popular in Jiayan Pavilion. Your Tianlong gang hasn't encountered a huge crowd for a long time. That's your share. Jia Yanzi seemed to be used to that kind of behavior and took over without resistance. Jia Yan smiled and took out part of it and threw it to Jia Yanzi. Still being taken seriously. But not long after I left, Tan Shu, who was sending off his friend, also flickered slightly and disappeared into the cracked subspace. Many people have asked openly and secretly who the drug manufacturer is, but they have all been made to avoid this question by the Tianlong gang, who was not prepared for it. On the 8th day, the sales results of the first few pills came out. Because it was a new drug and many people knew about it, the selling price was found on. It could only be said that the lowest price was guaranteed. They claim to be the ancestors of the visitors from the sky, but do they still understand the capabilities of the visitors from the sky? If they want to covet my treasure, he can give it a try, but just don't drag you into the water. Another half of the day passed. The result is clear, this small force does not exist anymore. The other party's face was very relaxed, and he locked eyes on Jia Yan's face. The evil seller will do more harm by finding less books and stories for you. Judging from the words of the deputy gang leader, it is obvious that that person knows about Tianli. He also knows that there are no camps among the visitors in Tianli, and even the place where they live is so far away that it may be more difficult to cross than the outside world. Jump. Even though there are very few special life forms outside the central continent, there are indeed some races of great creatures with high strength and status. It is those races that support the status of great creatures in the central continent. Tan Shuhi's original excitement had not reached his throat, but when he heard that this medicine was only effective for people above the submaster level, he suddenly became less interested. According to classic records. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3471. Remember new in 1 second. And your excellency over there, please show up too. After observing me so many times, you don't think I didn't feel your presence, right? The voice just now came from the air, but the owner of the voice was obviously a little confused. He boasts that he can hide well enough, and his talent is also specialized in hiding. With this ability, he often even kills masters who are obviously stronger than himself. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan has been aware of his existence for a long time. It shouldn't be right. Fear is fear, but the tolerance you should have must be shown. This one is not afraid of Jia Yan. Since your excellency Jia Yan has given orders, how dare I disobey you? After saying this, a graceful figure appeared from the air without any warning. Oh! What a coincidence! He Zhong laughed sarcastically. But after all, it was a long sigh and another word. Why should you give up with him? He and the Tianlong gang plotted against you, and you have no reason to give up on him. The other party said resolutely, as for the reason, it's also true. You originally wanted to cooperate with him, but you wanted to see how good he was. Otherwise, you would be looking down on competitors who come to France. The two top low-handers fought against each other, and we were evenly matched for the time being, but Jia Yanleng, who was hit by Qi Yang next to him, was unlucky. As an extremely low-level player close to the lower division level, he was able to catch even the aftermath and fly backwards with blood spurting out of his mouth. Jia Yan suddenly snorted. Fight! What the colorful female said made Jia Yan's heart skip a beat. It really showed off enough strength to injure the colorful female. The wind continues to blow slowly here. Jia Yan also saw that the colorful male and female creatures came from the inner world. Humph, a domineering woman, I'm afraid of him. But if it is the seventh type, it means that the other party has no identity yet. The colorful creatures smiled. I thought that the Tianlong gang was actually cooperating with another competitor. Immediately, Jia Yan didn't waste any time talking. No matter how much he talked, it was more useless than actually fighting. He Zhong broke the entangled topic. In fact, the two people would go and come back, which was the first step in sound transmission communication. Jia Yan had no doubts. Wrong. Are you just afraid that I will kill you? Hey, what a coincidence, on Jia Yan Pavilion, the blow just now caused me unbearable pain. Jia Yan said hotly. Jia Yan had thought about it, that the female competitor had relied on those sidemen to get by. She was not him, but a female creature. Still have a good grasp of many basic situations. The two competitors, in reality, cannot surpass the special competitors. After all, we have both passed the first level. That's too much. Jia Yan speaks out. The two sides suddenly hit one place in mid-air. At this time, Zhou Xiaolong also reacted and stepped back with an extremely ugly expression, retreating to the side of the female creature. Rumble. Among the entire team of competitors, you are already outstanding. Passing the next level means killing the same level. Is he targeting me? You are all competitors, so you still know how to write competitors' horoscope. Girl, he is targeting you. Could it be that he wants to help you win the final victory? There are even some chosen ones who retreat directly to the outer world in the central continent. We are the original us, and we may not take any advantage in the outer world. Just now, when the other party sent a message to He Zhong at the last moment of separation, Jia Yan thought he heard it wrong. Jia Yanj, you should be able to feel that you are plotting against him, not against him. Jia Yanleng's expression turned ugly. He stood in mid-air for a long time, then turned around and flew in the other direction, not looking like he was recovering from his exhaustion. Delay knows the content of Xiaobi, which involves the existence of Xiaoneng. Jia Yan ridiculed you several times just now, but it hasn't made you feel comfortable inside. Apart from what he said makes no sense, Jia Yan will easily kill a partner. The smaller reason is probably that you don't have any other trump card. Sorry, I came here half a year ago. You think he won't be of much help to you? Whether he is willing to cooperate or not depends on his hypocrisy. As I said just now, if he is hypocritical, you will cooperate with a competitor. I am afraid that you are both thinking about how to plot against each other now. What about you? Dare you worry about cooperating with him? Jia Yanra snorted. You feel that you haven't shown enough pretense yet. During the fight just now, there was always something real. In the confrontation between the rules of life and death, Jia Yan weighed the opponent's strength. Jia Yan laughed warmly again, turned around, turned into a ray of light, and disappeared in an instant. I suspect that Jia Yan is also looking for the destination of the 7th level. You have been in the central continent for half a year, so you should know less about the inside story than you do. You can't tell you the information. This He Zhong is indeed weak. You have misjudged the person. I am trying to cooperate. Forget it. Next, the Tianlong gang should try to leave Pangri City as soon as possible. That guy is almost an enemy in Pangri City. I am sure when your temper is down, if you want to kill them, the Tianlong gang, someone can stop them. Not even part of the content was deliberately placed outside the Tianlong gang to attract Jia Yan, so it is not too difficult for you to come up with part of the information. I believe that the female creature really has no bad intentions. Like me, a competitor. Before taking a few steps forward, the colorful creature moved its claws to protect Jia Yan Leng in front of him. Jia Yan shook his head. I'm sorry. Since Jia Yan is willing to cooperate with you, let's drop this matter. However, it is possible for him to kill this person. After all, I am your collaborator. On the other end, the colorful creature watching Jia Yan leave suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood. It just happened naturally, or Jia Yan might have done it intentionally and by chance. There is no rule of life and death, no rule of time. Jia Yan has a misunderstanding. Your cooperation with the Tianlong gang is not aimed at you. The colorful female agreed with great pain. And the other party also felt Jia Yan's power. That's why you dare to come back, He Zhong will kill you. There were so few female creatures here, so it was only natural that I and others collected a little information first. Really? Your Majesty thinks highly of you, so you must also think that I am your superior. Jia Yan continued to laugh warmly. After all, they are female, I understand. Jia Yan, who had just had a peaceful fight, reunited with this colorful female who was in a state of utter embarrassment. Jia Yan stood calmly in the air, looking at Zhou Xiaolong in disbelief and this colorful creature with a manly smile. The understanding of the rules of life and death is vulgar. By moving his hands on that colorful creature just now, he was able to weigh out the opponent's worth. But just when everything seemed to have settled. Sir Jia Yan, are you saying that you are being reasonable? I have only been in central mainland for a month. So it is fear. You call yourself a strong man. You can't consider cooperation, but he has to show his integrity. You need a small amount of information, at most the level that the Tianlong gang promised you at the beginning. Otherwise, there is no harm at all. Why would you take the risk to accept him? He actually thinks it's beautiful. Jia Yan Lengben was still sighing. He was indeed a top player. He could even see his figure clearly, so the two were evenly matched. There are so few classics and records outside the Tianlong gang, so you have actually collected them all. Cannot. I never thought that that man would dare to return injured. It's wrong. Do you need your Majesty to do something before you give it out? Since you invited your Majesty, it means that you are suspicious of me. Now that you have the things in hand, you can do it? You're a scumbag, right? She suspected that He Zhong was serious about it, so the two sides didn't have a chance to make peace. I can roughly judge the opponent's trump card. Damn it, what are you trying to do? Very slowly, the colorful female creature came to his side. Jia Yan had to turn his feet and collide with the claws that she grabbed. That man was not interesting. The colorful female creature's expression suddenly became solemn. I was on the next small land, and as soon as the formation was activated, I was able to defeat several of them with one foot. In an instant, I rushed behind Jia Yan's cold eyes and thrust out one foot, intending to kill the person who betrayed me. In order to circumvent the deputy leader of the Tianlong gang, we deliberately staged such a painful trick. The colorful creatures entered the dangerous area and looked at He-Jone with stern eyes. Did you just say that? You want a Lohan to protect you to the very beginning of that level, and then try your best to get lucky. God knows whether you will not be lucky enough to become one of the final winners. Jia Yan was stunned and continued to ask. Your Excellency Jia Yan, are you following me? He probably doesn't have any technological items in his hands. He must be analyzing what's wrong with your chips. Two figures appeared strangely in the place. Sir Jia Yanj, you have used it badly. Are you willing to cooperate with me just now? What is he planning? That's right. You have been here for so long. In many aspects, you should have less insight and knowledge than your superior. Your only request is not to fight each other before forming a team, but to take you to the final goal. Queen of Earth. The colorful female, on the other hand, acted quite simply before agreeing to the conditions. When she raised her paw, some chips were ejected. But what Jia Yan wants is not the most basic conditions. Wow! The colorful female struggled to reveal that point, and then turned into a streak of evil-looking light, far away. The time rule is of little use at that level, and it is useless in the early levels. Why did I lose it? Was it a coincidence that I had lost it long ago, or was it someone who knew the content of that competition? That trump card may be enough to kill Jia Yan, but it definitely won't give you the ability to protect yourself. At least the watch has no rules. This female colorful creature had a very ugly expression. Suddenly, a colorful claw marked Jia Yan's toes. Normally he seems to go all out, but he doesn't have rules, and he will bring them with every attack. The place where the 7 people clashed was in the center, and a small amount of power from heaven and earth exploded. Otherwise, knowing Jia Yan's power, you would still be so close, which is purely an act of seeking death. Puff. A colorful female creature with a rather innocent expression. It's nothing compared to betrayal. You think you know a lot about women. Lei Fa took advantage of his gender and approached an acquaintance from his early years, then took advantage of his attention and killed him. No matter how I explain it, that's not the case. But now when I look at it, I can see that everything is evenly matched. The colorful junior on my side is injured. Junior. You have shown that you are powerful enough to kill the opponent, but that female creature still dares to come to cooperate with you, just because she is afraid that she will kill you. You actually used a pretty glorious method. Yes, Jia Yan's first attack was too merciless. Yes, he has also seen that your strength is just like him. If he feels that nothing is right outside of the cooperation process, he can kill you at any time, and you will have no complaints. From the beginning to the end, I have never believed you. As expected, the Tianlong gang does not really cooperate with me. My lord Hezonga, how about we just stop here? He's quite loyal. Since he wants to protect the native, it's up to him. You just hate women who are so outspoken. As for the competitors who can make it from the first level to the present, regardless of their gender, they will all be complex characters. The method is the first, which is worse. Although you only master one rule of life and death, you don't have any other skills. You claim to be better than Jia Yansheo. You are trying to play tricks on me, and you are following his tricks. This colorful multi-male creature took the initiative to help Jia Yanleng explain. Probably it is the special strength of the competitors that got them to that point. The other party was also sprayed at key points, and for a moment he didn't know how to respond. What realm is that? Ding. Jia Yanra snorted. Even if you don't have a chance to kill the Jia Yan behind you, you won't be able to kill him. Jia Yanj, then. Jia Yanleng opened his mouth to say something. Whether Jia Yan really wants to kill you, you can see clearly. But if you look at what the female said later, it was half true and half false. But among the weak, there is always intrigue and deception. Even reaching the top level is difficult. Moreover, it was a little capable person who took the risk of being criticized by other little capable people and told Jia Yan the details of the competition. Just gave it to you like that. This junior is actually an enemy of Jia Yan. And Jia Yan wants to take revenge on your Tianlong gang. Did you tell me that your excellency himself said that he was talking about those things? If you want to cooperate with me, how can we cooperate with you? Calculate others and say it is your own bad intentions. Has he been here for half a year? This is not against me. The colorful female creature makes no secret of its purpose. As mentioned before, even though this female creature is not humanoid, nor does it look familiar to Jia Yan, all good things are the same. This female creature has a pair of big wings, full of feathers, revealing some colorful colors, which looks quite beautiful. It's unusual. There were no competitors in the first place, but they appeared far away in the central continent. Being able to delay knowing about Xiao Bai's identity and status is absolutely terrifying no matter where he goes. No matter how it is managed, it is said to be in the past. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3472. Remember new in 1 second. U. Jia Yan wanted to say if this female creature wanted to talk in just a few words, but after thinking about it, he had no reason to be so lenient, and the other party had no reason to listen to him. This is not all the information. It is about 1/3 of what I might give you, and the information about the final destination conjecture is not involved at all. It is all here. The colorful female took out another pile of chips, which made Jia Yan's eyes heat up. What he wants is information about the final destination. Otherwise, there is no need to hide in Pangri City. If you know where the final checkpoint is, you would have flown there long ago. But his idea was discovered by the colorful creatures, and he immediately laughed. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are a person who uses technology to create things. You will never think like these natives. You can use things as soon as you grab them. What I have here, the password, even the most powerful computer in the known universe, will take tens of millions of years to successfully crack, so it's useless if you steal it. Of course I know, I don't want to rob it. I'm just curious. Jia Yan coughed awkwardly. Okay, no kidding, since Mr. Jia Yan is interested in cooperation, how about I share my opinion? Speaking. I am a low-level player in subspace talent. My essence is the same as other competitors. I am almost afraid of the consumption of materials. I guess I didn't have my own channel to get the news, so I turned back there. The female creature is named Kalen. In the original intention of the little genius who created that world, the outer world is a bridge, allowing small galaxies to move slower through the bridge in the outer world. When the leader of the Bai gang found Su Yan, Jia Yan felt my excitement and relief. Jia Yan was very talkative about the female creature. At the other end of the city, in a corner of the city, a colorful and great creature slowly flew towards Jia Yan's direction amidst the exclamations of many onlookers. Although moving between continents, even using subspace techniques, takes a long time, returning to the Milky Way from subspace and retreating back in actually does not take that long. Obviously, Bai Bang's leader, the city lord's mansion, also paid more attention to Bai Bang. He asked Jia Yan several times about his work arrangement process, and if he was not free, he went to the city lord's mansion to meet with the city lord. Gang leader Bai. Su Yan used various excuses to shirk everything. It worked, so I left the central continent formation blockade, returned to the Milky Way from the central continent's subspace, and picked up a small amount of supplies before returning. For the time being, Kalen and I have to find some money and resources far away from gang leader Bai. This will trouble the gang leader. The more I study ancient books and read legends, the more frightened I become. Jia Yan straightened his expression. Jia Yan's temperament is that he hates meeting with such condescending people. He said that when the time comes, they want me to be polite, and I am willing to talk to someone who is slightly stronger than me, so maybe there will be a conflict. Elder Tianshan. Jia Yan really wanted to give birth to Jia Yanzi. As a being who had been lurking for half a year, Kaylin knew far less about the Tianshan sect than Su Yan, so her expression changed slightly when she heard this. It should be about. You know, I haven't achieved any of my goals in gang leader by. It is difficult for no one to be able to go down. Those who can go down are often the top players. Moreover, the sky over the central continent is even more majestic and low. It is extremely low. The Tianshan sect is an existence that dares to act blatantly. If I provoke them even a little bit, I will die and die. Unexpectedly, the expression of the leader of the Bai gang did not reveal a smile. He must have taken too much notice of the people from the central continent. They are going to cause trouble. Tianshan sent elders to rush to gang leader Bai. If you want to greet me, it is best to leave quickly. The top should be down. So Jia Yan is not worried about the shortage of supplies. As soon as she finished speaking, the stinky luster on Kaylin's body subsided and turned into a big blue bird that was very angry. Drinks must still be something enjoyed by the lower classes. But Jia Yan was still not afraid of the Tianshan in front of gang leader Bai. Generally, it can help the low-level players of the second division to break through to the lower division level. It can be said to be extremely popular. Although Zhou Duolong has never thought about using elixirs like Jia Yan's to advance, because that would cut off my options, but I am willing, and what is rare is that Xiaoling is willing. What other character will the demon's friend be? If it is also a demon. Su Yanzi finally told the truth. That female actually knows a lot more than you do. Then, within the Bai gang, no small amount of bad things leaked out. I haven't had a bad night's sleep since I found out that Jia Yan might be a devil. Su Yan had much less similar supplies. If I want to make a stumbling block, I have to take action as early as when I break through. Why waste my brain on such a big thing? Friend, Jia Yanzi's head shrank. It is accurate to say that it is equivalent to the immortal, almost the existence of strength between the Xiaoneng and the front-level domain lord. Under the sky, there are many small land masses floating. Two tiny creatures talking in mid-air still attracted too much attention. Although there were no strong people passing by here, even if they were noticed by passers-by, it would still be a problem. Su Yan smiled and entered into the last round of business talks with Jia Yanzi. But he has restrained himself a little. What we are competing against is not speed. Jia Yan smiled jokingly. He, if he shows it again, he will really attract people from the city lord's mansion. Haitian has helped Jia Yan several times. Su Yan finishing. Do we dare to take action? With you two competitors here, it is impossible to massacre the city lord's palace. Gang leader Bai once again set off a wave of Bai gang. Hearing this, Jia Yan Fujing Shivo's expression did not change. It made Jia Yan look at that gang in a different light. Therefore, countless submasters and bad guys took their whole life's money and went to Su Yanzi just to buy such a medicine. As expected, he was a participant half a year early. Is this serious? The several medicines Jia Yan gave are enough to stir up 1,000 waves with one stone. The bad thing is that Jia Yan's demon is the same as the demon in the ancient books. He is still reasonable and cooperative. How long? The source of the Bai gang leader's ease was the official's intervention. So I would rather see you. Sir Jia Yanj, you are about to leave. Show your true self a little. Why are you so grand? The gang leader's eyes became solemn and he said, what's the matter? What? Is this serious? This must be bad, ugh. The subspace is blocked by the formation. This area was called Jedi by the central continent. The land below floats piece by piece, creating the beauty of a strange world. What's wrong? Is the gang leader so proud of himself lately? Why do you look like this today? Do not forget. That's bad, thank you Su Yanzi. You'd better be slow. You're also afraid of being implicated. But before that, both sides still landed from mid-air. The leader of the Bai gang came to visit him again. I know that Jia Yan would make complicated requests. If Jia Yan really wanted to make some big move, he would kill him on the spot. Even at the lowest level, Jia Yan could travel slowly in several areas, let alone the more dangerous low-altitude areas. Thank you for your kindness, gang leader. If that's the case, you should pack up and leave immediately. You should take all your things with you and place them conveniently outside the warehouse. There is the key to the warehouse outside. I will give it all to you for a fee. Just treat it as your own. The risk you take gives you the reward of intelligence. Just after another 7 days passed and business was in full swing, Jia Yan also took the time to meet with Kalen again and reached the last step of cooperation. It's about Pang Richin. This medicine is so bad that it's so bad that you can't even relax. You're just meeting the city lord. It's up to you to make your own decision. It's just that things haven't exploded yet. As for the Tianlong gang, Jia Yanzi's expression changed. By the way, you don't have any friends yet. Please send someone over to let you know. Remember to send low-level people. The sky in the outer world is low. Even Zhou Duolong, the deputy leader of the Tianlong gang, has been stuck at the top of the subdivision for many years. But there isn't much to pay attention to in the middle. You have the skills in your hands, so you have to cooperate with you. Tell me, Kalen Pavilion, can you control his fancy appearance? Buzz. This is the worst. Even if this happens, it will definitely happen. Anyway, let's talk business. But that time I didn't look ugly and walked in a hurry. Although I know that the elder is not weak, it is possible to become an elder of such a force. I am afraid that even if he is a junior master, he will definitely be a junior master. It is only natural that the city lord will intervene. The city lord came to see you personally and said that the medicine will be handed over to Su Yanzi for official sale in the future. He said that he wanted to discuss it with him. Do you think? What are you worried about me for? Your sense of the Tianshan sect is the same as that of Jia Yan. This is not a giant thing. But since it was Tianshan who personally took action, I had to be prepared. Su Yan is willing to meet with the ruler. God knows what will happen then? Now it has to be accelerated in that way. A drug that can produce low-level masters in small amounts can only produce the most powerful low-level masters, but it is still a low-level master. I looked back at the light, and there was nothing weird in my eyes. Jia Yan saw that the leader of the Bai gang was not sighing, and knew that I felt sorry for the small amount of capital flow that Bai gang wanted to control, so he said calmly, the leader is also heartbroken. You haven't done anything like this yet, but you have. In case that situation happens again, you will come up with something stronger than that medicine, and the city lord will always be embarrassed to steal it. Another ray of light shot in the opposite direction. Coincidentally, the competitors are all top players. It's almost to the point of falling out. A long while ago, I nodded solemnly, okay, just wait for him. Since Jia Yanj is now our deacon, we will treat him sincerely. What is unimaginable is that the city lord may not have lost his anger. The final destination is probably to reach the topmost continent of the central continent. Jia Yan did that in the past because he knew the specific address of the central continent in subspace. Su Yanzi's matter. When it comes to fighting, Bai Gang is doing something bad and he has to move to another place. Jia Yan shook his head while flying, throwing away his messy thoughts. How dare you come into contact with yourself? A giant mosquito flew out of the mountain stream. You know, what I have been worried about is not Tianshan. That border city has lost even more color recently because of a strange local businessman. Su Yan couldn't be afraid of gang leader Bai's combat power. But to Jia Yan, we are nothing more than flowers and plants on the roadside that can be easily kicked away. We are too strong and care too much. Since we want to ruin the relationship, I am also happy to see it happen. After all, if I become angry out of shame, ran to officially tell gang leader Bai about the identities of Jia Yan and the other 7 people, which would be no trouble. It's absolutely true. Gang leader, you have to promise me something. Also very unusual. No matter how you put it, it is impossible to threaten your own safety. I am sure that Hai Tian has changed my thinking, saying that it is possible to pass the 7th level. Jia Yan raised his mosquito head and looked at the sky. That mind is actually not very useful, but there is nothing wrong with it, and it is quite sensible. I hope your judgment is wrong, otherwise you will have to work in vain, and, you always feel that Hai Tian knew about it from the beginning, and deliberately told you. Jia Yan, as calm as before, said in a serious voice, if gang leader Bai wants to touch you, if you can't, let me inform you. Even if you fail to leave in the end, you can definitely join the city leader, the team chasing you. If you are afraid of a friend, when you kill the gang leader, they will kill you. Instead, he said seriously, in the matter of Pang Richen, gang leader Bai may have known your identity for a long time. In those few days, we ordered people to report to the Tianshan side. The urgent news you just received is that an elder has come from the Tianshan side. It's about Pang Richen, please go slowly. As long as there are enough supplies for the small front, I will not waste all the supplies. Seriously, you heard this from a low-level official in Suyanzi. Let's just say that because of your instructions from the deacon, you specifically used part of the sales proceeds to bribe low-level officials in the city. This person is also your bad friend. Before I learned the information that time, I specially sneaked out to tell you. Demonic stuff. Through that person, Jia Yan understood the content that was impossible to unfold in Duona's 7th level. You tell Jia Yan that the next direction should be to break through the bottom continent of the central continent and fly towards the lower continent. I knew the situation was minor, so I nodded repeatedly, bad, please tell me its address, and you can go there yourself. So I wanted to have a falling out. Zhou Duolong later came to Jia Yan, but through several important figures, he sent some things that Jia Yan had asked about a long time ago, such as ancient books about what the visitors from heaven left behind by future generations. Cheats and the like. God knows there are not many beings trapped in the subdivision level. Half daylight in front. Now that we are about to part ways, I am finally completely wary of Suyan. And I feel that the other party has nothing to hide from me. Jia Yan suddenly became enlightened. That's enough. Flying down by yourself, or even using the subspace method, might be possible. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3473. Remember new in 1 second. Anyway, their ordinary competitors are absolutely invincible. With the power of the Mighty One, which competitor would dare to provoke it? I don't know how the competitors back then almost wiped out Tianshan in one fell swoop, but since there are such grievances, it's better for us to leave quickly. Kalen expressed satisfaction with Jia Yan's behavior of calling her out. The two of them didn't care so much. Jia Yan sent a few vague messages to the Bai gang in the air, and then clasped his fists. The two of them didn't say much, and turned into 2 rays of light, flying towards the outside of Pangri City. They don't care whether the city is closed to air traffic. Just leave quickly. Buzz. Just when they touched the edge of the city and were about to leave the city wall, a ray of light suddenly appeared above the city wall. The power of rules. The circle shape drawn by the feet actually came out of the body and turned into a circular formation of 1 white and 1 white. Kalen quickly seized the opportunity and escaped. Um. The small array swayed violently. That shows that those demons have very strange fighting power. The master of the breath jumped hundreds of millions of kilometers in an instant, rounded back to Jia Yan's 7 people, and swept over them with a small hand. However, in terms of the large formation covering the entire city, Jia Yan's formation is at least not so terrifying. Instead, one would think that this formation method was actually developed by Lu Quan. The monk only felt a numb and itchy feeling on his face. Even a top player like me didn't feel it, which shows how shocking the poison was. Since the elder is entrusting me with this, the 7 of you will take the advice from the teaching pavilion together. The answer is yes. This is appalling. You sometimes think very little of yourself. Jia Yan, on the other hand, was paying attention to the surrounding movements while allowing a trace of energy to spread out from his formation and add it to his feet. To know. That was the first time before I studied the Bibai formation that no one had broken through that formation with brute force, which showed that the opponent's strength was indeed superior. Ken. And the world around him instantly shifted, as if he had retreated into all the noisy areas. But I know that I probably won't have similar problems anymore, and I'm afraid my attitude will change towards that person's. But in that life, I also experienced similar feelings. So the other party's thinking is bad. Just like the so-called martial arts practitioners in ancient times on Earth, the palms of their hands change color. In addition to the female creature, will the more troublesome mosquito creature behind the eyes also not have similar moves? To the outside world, the universe is definitely a smaller and weaker place. Bai and Baisha spread to thousands of miles away, and actually enveloped the entire monk's body. Bad and weak palm power. The power of the formation is not familiar to the cosmic masters who come to the outer world. Kalen, who was about to be hit, just passed through my fingers. For a weak person who is stuck in a bottleneck like that, I know that there is a small probability that it makes sense. Are the lives in the outer world just frogs in the well? But it shows that people in the outside world have poor physical fitness. As for the real combat power, it is bad to say who is weaker. Do it. Change will happen later. Lu Quan interrupted. Witherworm's great skill. But that means we are strong. Jia Yan was too lazy to agree with you. He bluntly said to the giant in monk attire, he is the elder of Tianshan. It is very likely that he has the status of your superior. He should know what a wise move is to provoke your competitors. Please do it. You made a mistake. I opened the formation and let you wait to leave, otherwise it will be you and the other 7 who will suffer. Kalen opened her mouth and started talking about women and men again. Although I didn't try my best, the noise I caused exceeded Kalen's. Is it important to you? It is both mysterious and familiar to the experts in the outside world, but every time we try, it is absolutely feasible. Kalen stayed in Xiaolu after that, but she had not killed many lower divisions of the same level, so she felt that it was difficult. I have a carefree attitude. As soon as this brilliance appeared, it seemed to connect the heaven and the earth, shrouding the entire city in it. When Kalen saw the other party's behavior, she immediately knew what he was thinking. After all, you are also a serious competitor who has retreated to the 7th level in the 4th round. You are so embarrassed. Jia Yan was unconvinced and raised his feet to prepare for an attack. But just as they were about to leave, Jia Yan and the 2 men, who were blocked by this light, turned pale for a moment. For example, Jia Yan himself, if I were also stuck in a bottleneck period, I would be willing to do anything. Whether it is a teleportation array or some other formation. Kalen, who has just exerted the power of rules at this time, is your weakest complete body. It's the same, but I don't have any bad surprises about the bodies of demons like you. If the 2 of you stay here and discuss the Tao with me, it is very likely that you and the other 8 people will confirm each other and get sudden ideas in cultivation. It's decided. but the Jia Yan who had just successfully joined forces next to him. I grabbed it with my backhand, trying to catch Kalen who was about to turn around and escape. What the visitors from heaven are cultivating is cosmic energy, which is something unheard of for the weak in the outside world. Immediately your eyes flashed with brilliance. The monk's spirit changed slightly, and he stopped holding on to Kalen. He felt that there was no murderous intention in the world. For a low-handed person like me, I must first put my own life and death at the lowest level. Of course, my heart skipped a beat. Array. Now it has put the other party into some weird state. Targeted Jia Yan. This is the grand formation. The great formations in the other world have developed to the central continent. They are already extremely complex and extremely powerful. Compared with Jia Yan's formation methods, they all have their own advantages and disadvantages. It is impossible to say whose one is stronger. Then my 2 feet touched each other helplessly. The monk showed no expression at all and continued to attack Jia Yan in a roundabout way. Jia Yan's expression also changed. Kalen, whose heart was beating wildly, found herself looking behind the monk's eyes through her fingers, and a fierce light shone in her eyes again. The sound was like the roar of a lion. The speed and reaction power of that top low hand far exceeded that of the special domain lord front level low hand. A claw struck the arm of the monk and elder who was basically trying to defend himself. I'm sure the earth here would be split in half by that palm. Even among other competitors, there are a few that catch your eye. Nirvana. Crackle. My lifespan is needless to say. I am very old. It cannot even be said that I am too old to worry about my longevity. Why are you helping him? Jia Yan also became more enthusiastic. But when we were preparing to attack the small formation that trapped the city for the 7th time, there was suddenly an extremely shocking aura missing from the direction of the city lord's palace. If you are the only one here today, would you be lucky? But that's it. The poison that can kill even a special low-level master in one breath actually caused little harm to me. At that point, anyone can be intentional, and the strength of the low-level players who have mastered the power of rules will not be characterized by sudden retreat. It took almost one person to hold the opponent back. Besides, you are really powerless. His eyes quickly condensed, feeling the power released by Jia Yan, and his expression became very strange. 2 friends, it is difficult to create a formation in the city, so you should be humble. So Jia Yan understands Kalen's attitude. It's very bad. Heavenly demon is worthy of being a heavenly demon. I haven't faced such a difficult enemy for a long time. Although leaving the galaxy, the effect of cultivation will be slightly reduced, but it is only used to confirm certain conjectures and has the effect of drawing parallels. There is absolutely no problem with this. For competitors, it is difficult for us to compete with the majestic creatures in the outside world based on pure strength. Hey, another smooth-tongued woman. I'm afraid that I hid this trip from the lower levels of Tianshan, and came here alone to arrest myself and Kalen, and then retreated to study. Jia Yandu can cultivate the Tao power of the outside world, so that the other party can dabble in the power of the universe a little, which is natural. Just when Kalen was about to fall into crisis again, Jia Yan arrived in time. Lion roars. Why are you blocking your way? Could it be that that formation was also a trap created by him? That one fell into a bottleneck period in cultivation. Because of character. I can analyze the strength of a head-on confrontation just now. Compared with the low-level player who was almost at the top of the domain lord front level, he was still far behind. Jia Yan said calmly, as hot as ice. And it took a long time. For competitors, the power of rules is the key to becoming little capable. Poof. It is simply too sensational to study the formation alone and be able to play a role in such a small battle. Since Jia Yan has created a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you to attack the enemy's face directly, you may miss it? Jia Yan nodded. The powder was extremely slow and floated under the opponent's face before taking off the claws. Xiao Yan is ashamed. What? Are you two going down together? You are indeed a demon, so shameless. When you are surprised, just listen to the monk in the formation roaring. Big injury. Do you care? When Jia Yan faced the elder's offensive, his expression became dull for a moment. Haha, to be honest, I have seen Hunter's Inxi before. I know that there are two low-level players from Tianli in your Tianshan territory, so I just hurried over to see you. As for the formation, I just saw the two leaving in a hurry. I did it out of complacency, please forgive me. A punch came from the air. The colorful female creature that was able to hurt me just now lost the power to hurt me in an instant. Kalen can spray a kind of colorless powder from the surface of its colorful body. Kalen returns to your colorful appearance, and the entire body is rendered in extremely psychedelic colors. Jia Yan is an example. Although I have no scruples about the power of cultivation, or even the power of the immortal family, this is just scruples, not fear. A formation suddenly bloomed in Lu Quan's palm. Kalen finally used her fighting power that was unmatched by her competitors. It is said that it is very likely that he will be stuck between the levels of knocking off and reaching the level of Xiaoneng. Attack. But when I felt the power of Lu Quan's formation, I always felt that it was similar to the formation, but not the same. It seemed that it was not a formation from the outside world, but a newly developed similar formation based on the principle of the formation. Legal stuff. The monk's palm turned into a fist. A layer of blood was scraped out. The huge city with billions of kilometers, shrouded in this semicircular brilliance, looks extremely spectacular. Jia Yan felt it. Jia Yan looked at the elder and immediately understood. What exactly does he want? Cai Lan shouted beside her. More or less, we have all been exposed to the power of the outside world. Humph, you two, if your guess is wrong, their strength is still in the state of transformation, right? If I take action, they have no reason to escape. In order to save some face, you advise them to just surrender and capture. Kalen is so smart and sees through that Jia Yan is far weaker than next time. The rules of life and death. Kalen is also considered to have no eyesight. Kalen and I gathered all our strength together and suddenly blasted away towards the corner of the small formation behind our eyes. The next time he fights with you, he will indeed hide his strength. The muscles are knotted, and there are only a few scars under the shiny bald head. I'll give it to you. Don't even think about it. Of course, you at least think that it is some kind of simulation formation inherited from ancient competitors before they left the outside world. As for the weak in the outside world, Kalen was the first to say yes. You know, the strength of that low-handed player is such that you feel like he is an enemy as soon as you take action. Judging from the fight just now, I haven't analyzed that the weakest of the two demons is a mosquito creature. Thank you, break the formation first and then talk about it. That's a common mentality. Competitors who come to the outside world often don't have the feeling to see the frog in the well when it comes to the low players in the outside world. The world of white and white naturally collapsed. As a top low hand, he is good at seizing any fleeting opportunity. A ripple visible to the naked eye destroyed the formation. Roar. One is a foot prick and the other uses your claws. So after defeating Jia Yan, the two demons were under my control. But it means that I agree with Kalen taking action alone against the Tianshan elder behind her eyes. It seems that he has defeated two demons. Jia Yan and the two reacted very quickly, so they had no choice but to stop attacking the formation and withdraw from the area covered by their little hands. One foot spun half a circle. For the sake of strength, in order to continue to become weak and increase their lifespan, those weak people are willing to do anything. Also step up. As for the other female, she must have just relied on her beauty to capture the mosquito creature, and she was definitely a strong one. Both sides have to mention it if they can confirm each other. I know the name of the demon, but, I am not in trouble with you two, so why should I judge the heart of a gentleman with the heart of an adult? Apparently, someone wasn't letting them leave. This monk-like giant laughed ferociously. That means your strength at this time has also reached its peak. Before he stood still, he noticed that flying towards him was a giant woman dressed as a monk. The monk felt that the palm he had slapped was surrounded by something transparent, and the strength of the entire palm was slightly delayed. Not poisonous. Almost in shock and fear, he clapped his palm out again, and the entire palm suddenly turned into a fiery red color. That woman was about as young as Wang Gongwei. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3474. Remember new in 1 second. With Kalen just in place to keep him in check, he can display his true strongest form. A touch of feet. Positive and negative forces rippled out. There are also rules of life and death, as well as rules of time. The first is the time rule. The last attack comes first, and the fists coming from the opponent are intertwined. The two parties haven't made contact yet, but the other party's expression has changed. His fists obviously slowed down. Time. This guy can cast the magic of time. For ascetics, the most difficult thing is time. Although they are people who cultivate immortality, perhaps because of this, God has given them restrictions, and it is extremely difficult to understand things like time. You still want this? Hey, I'm just afraid you won't be able to eat it. The whole body turned into a deep blue color. The opponent's fist came to Jia Yan's eyes. The personality is not fixed, but switches automatically according to needs. If you are honest, Jia actually knows your own personality and has a good grasp of your own personality and temper. He definitely only regards color and other things as the female's advantage, which shows that he sees things deeply enough. It must be said that the Tianshan sect is indeed powerful. You and brother Jia joined forces and only brought so much damage to his elder. But don't think that you are that strong. He knows the tricks of the young masters. Based on the time rules, the opponent's strength was suppressed by at most 280%. Such a huge giant is very eye-catching. But for the opponent's body, which is thousands of miles away, the damage is like a real mosquito bite under the body of an earthling, which may be fatal. Therefore, the opponent's threat power is slightly increased. Oh? Have you seen anyone else's trump card? I really want to see it. A trace of interest arose between the monk's brows. Jia Yan and Kalen looked at each other, slowed down and left Wei Ji seeing. Whether it can be used to resist it depends on the other party's attitude. It is difficult. Jia Yan hasn't made many arrangements yet, and he doesn't even have certain supplies stored outside the warehouse, but the current situation makes it difficult to go back and get them for the rest of his life. You just acted the white face, now you are walking away slowly. If they really keep fighting, they will really have to stay here. In the outside world, we are just passers-by, here to participate in the competition, but to stay somewhere permanently. Now that there are no new clues, we naturally need to attack new clues. What a cowardly visitor from heaven. Jia Yan noticed the desire in the other person's eyes and felt helpless. Even those of us who come from within have no means of our own. As a small sect from the outside world, the Tianshan sect does not have the power of a small expert. As an elder, how can a monk not have a desperate move? You too, remember their promise, otherwise you didn't have any weak moves last time. You just want to know whether they can resist it? Although he is willing to deny it, the monk elder from Tianshan sect is top-notch in strength and is weaker than Jia Yan. Pang Richen has not yet become a thing of the past. I can only say that Jia Yan and Kalen forced me to use that move just now. I carefully restrained my somewhat respectful attitude, took a deep look at Wei Ji, and then nodded and said, "This thing is of no help to you, he can't let it go, It's okay to pass it by you, it must be just hand over something similar. Jia Yan's curiosity and interest in learning about the formations of the outside world are not lost. I turned around. Kalen in front of us quickly followed. The 7 of them broke through the city wall with ease. The formation that blocked our eyes just now has long since disappeared. The signature of a giant mosquito was in the air. The small battle between the two sides was at the top level, and it had already attracted a small number of residents and low-level players throughout Pangri City to watch. It also saw us giving up our defensive alert. What a really special talent. Excuse me, it is compared to your strength, Elder Jia Yan responded with a smile. Therefore, the bad guy will suffer the consequences later. Not to mention anything else, the rules of time alone are enough for him to study. I really read that big book myself. For a giant 10,000 kilometers away, it is basically at the level of bacteria. You will keep your promise, please open the formation now. The way to talk about it is to use hue and so on. Buzz. Now he wants to capture these 2 demons even more. There is no sweetness in his eyes. The weak are not like that. Your Excellency, you see that he is following the path of the flesh. I don't have a small force in your world, and I have never studied the path of the flesh in your world. Moreover, I have combined it with the path of physical cultivation in your world. I have never done anything like it. If there is little analysis and summary, he must think your analysis is useless. If there is no other report, he will just take it and take a look. Therefore, Jia Yan had no regrets at all when he gave up Wei Ji Xing. Jia Yan flickered, dodged the fist, and then stabbed his sharp foot out along the opponent's body surface. It also means that they will definitely lose, but if they really fight, they will definitely suffer losses, because the other side is also the opponent's territory after all. Although I was hit by Jia Yan as soon as I paid attention, my body was too small. The elder monk's eyes turned, and he took a few steps forward, locking eyes on the 2 visitors from heaven. One can imagine how weak that guy's fighting ability is. Not you yet. Jia Yan penetrated the opponent's fist, and with the help of his larger body, the opponent's fist followed at a faster speed, and he cowardly attacked the monk's fist and arm again and again. And we also doubt that people from the Tianshan sect really dare to do this. How could he not be surprised? After all, Wei Ji now uses close combat to fight enemies. That is the Azure defensive body that I have used for a long time. It doesn't hurt at all. It was the move on the pavilion, but it was me who was seriously injured. Jia Yan said solemnly. Kalen actually looked up as if she were a pure horse. It's like half an official said this, it's absolutely weightless. How about you go in, sir? It looks like you're in trouble. When you become a capable person, Pang Richin will take a bad look. Yes, you will kill the Tianshan sect. Yes. Let them all go. It is against the wishes of this elder. They are going to stay in the territory of your Tianshan section. If you had heard their information half a month ago, you would still be chasing you, and the last time I found the door, you were alone. But don't take the low hand's vision seriously. I still want to do the same thing again, it's so complicated. If one elder is so difficult to deal with, there must be one less, or even a few, who can really save us from death. Before that, the competitor who will take care of you next time was killed by Kalen in a sneak attack and poisoned when he was about to start the first level. A greedy guy. I saw that the air in the sky, half of the sunlight blocked by the formation, instantly became dark. But when these words are spoken, now I have no idea about any techniques that may not help my strength decline. It turned out that I was hiding it from Jia Yan Pavilion. Because the situation on the field is very clear. Buzz. The strong wind brought out from under his fist brought a little trouble to Jia Yan. He was blown thousands of kilometers away and struggled to stabilize his body. The monk elder felt upset for a moment. Okay. He secretly said that it was a pity that he could have stayed a little longer to see the weak force formation that enveloped the entire city. Jiayan Pavilion, what are you going to do next? Are you going to find a way directly to the land in the sky? Suddenly, the monk's dull words came from in front of him. Yes, he and the other two are indeed worthy of my respect. Tell me, what are they willing to do if I want my elder to open the formation? Tell them the truth. If they come up with some skills to help you improve, are you? I will let them go, even if it costs the lives of all the people in the city. It would be a pity. Jia Yan looked at Kalen helplessly, and the two exchanged a few words. Kalen didn't seem to feel comfortable being driven away, and she gritted her teeth. The opponent's strength requires Jia Yan to use his body, which is also a reflection of the opponent's extremely weak strength. Generally speaking, in the outer world, the resistance outside the air and the unique world rules allow me to fly with the help of wing feathers, and the speed will be increased. Now that the two of them join forces to defeat the enemy, there is no chance of victory. Jia Yan glanced sideways at the other party, and then said in a serious tone, "We are not in a war state yet. Your Majesty is pretending to be mean. Even if they were all killed by the two intruders, I would still blink my eyes and return to the outside of the section. At least I would be punished with a crime of negligence, which would not hurt Xiao at all. Just like Kalen has now suddenly become the person in charge between the two, if you do the same thing later, it will make people think that you are a strong man. Let him taste the pain." Ever since, an annoying sound was heard on the battlefield. The two flew in the direction pointed by Jia Yan. And the demon Mosquito in front of him actually has the ability to time with his hands. Your Majesty is really decisive in killing. Jia Yan couldn't help but sneered. Jia Yan looked up at the sky. Kalen didn't expect it, she just continued to hum and threw something. Facts have proved that even if you just rely on the weak, it will be difficult to achieve anything at any cost. An elder of Tianshan sect said this. 7 of you are indeed very skilled. Jia Yan threw out a large booklet. This is the buzzing sound of mosquitoes. The formation was automatically lifted. He is nothing more than a passerby on the journey. Kalen suddenly smiled again. But the speed has been extremely slow. We suspect that the Tianshan sect elder is not just showing off. Jia Yan had not had difficulty using his wings for many years. But when it comes to close combat, his own wings are more useless. Jia Yan once again passed between the opponent's two fists, and pierced the opponent's skin with one foot, leaving a trail of blood. The two sides continued to fly under the official road in Pangri City for a while, and finally the road became less dilapidated because they left the prosperous place of Wei Jixing. Kalen appeared from in front of the fist with thunderous force, and one of her claws was filled with poisonous substances, which were thrown directly up. But both of them are too young. But after the surprise, his eyes showed interest. The onlookers all took half a step forward. The monk's eyes bulged, and then his fist transformed into a slap again. The mere act of opening his fist caused a piece of poison thrown by Kalen to be blown away. Yes, it's Hanhu. As Kalen said, our two competitors haven't come up with their trump cards yet, but they really have to, such as Wei Ji's explosives and subspace skills. It is said that there is no chance of a comeback. The other party is still an elder. For such a low-ranking person, the life of a city is just a matter of his words. The low-level players of these small and big forces, plus the city lord's mansion, which will inevitably have no pre-territorial level, may take action against us. Defeating those people at the critical moment will really play a decisive role in the tripod. In that case, he seems to have a bad temper, but he doesn't seem to be gentle at all. It's all an act. In addition to Jia Yanli, Kalen, who was in charge of poison, was also causing trouble. He suddenly appeared and attacked, which dealt a blow to my mentality. The monk said little and just waved his hand towards the city lord's mansion. The monk has a smiling expression. In order to improve their strength, they have resorted to all kinds of methods, which makes no sense. Such masters of stagnation period are like crazy people. Jia Yan and the two seem to be driven away, threatening the two of you with the lives of the people you rule. But it also illustrates something. Because in addition to the lives of the entire city, the other party also expressed my determination. This is true and everything is hidden. Jia Yan denied that the other party was quite non-threatening. On the way, Kaylin also revealed all the insights she had gained during the 6 months since she first came to the central continent. Jia Yan also looked at it carelessly, thinking that the thing must be an ordinary thing. When the monks and elders saw it, they nodded fiercely after only 2 breaths of time. The current situation is that even if I retreat into the subspace, the formation may not be able to hinder the subspace. After all, this is the central continent. It is difficult to conduct subspace research on the inner continent, but outside it is many low-hand research directions. The other party used spiritual power to fix the large booklet in mid-air, translated 2 pages, and breathed slowly. It's wrong. After this, let's let you leave the scope of Tianshan sect first. At worst, don't go to Tiangong. Tiangong's strength is only weaker or stronger than Tianshan section. If you wait until you encounter a top Tiangong low-level player again, you will be asking for trouble. There is no right or wrong. The confrontation with the elder just now made us restrain our respect for life forms in the outside world. As a top female player, you don't know how to use your gender advantage. Stop. In fact, you were able to break into the 7th level because you used similar methods and behavior. The deterrent effect of those words on Jia Yan and the two of them was still relatively weak. In addition to retreating into the subspace and escaping, there is really nothing that Jia Yan can do to defeat the opponent in a one-on-one situation. Kaylin put on a white face. But the impulse has passed, and now it is Jia Yan's 7 people, and the rest are only hot and quiet. I pointed at Kaylin.